Okay, you guys ready for this? Let's talk about email management as a skill, as its own system. So what this course is going to be, and this is a welcome and about your instructor. I never like to talk about your instructor. I'll give you a little bit on that, but I honestly, I don't really care. So here's the deal. I hope just the value that you get out of the course gives its own credibility rather than my resume. So here's the reason why we're doing this course is I believe that regardless of what industry you're in, regardless of what role you're in, and if you have done an amazing job, whether you have built the most efficient, duplicatable, scalable, predictable, efficient system, I don't care if you built it or if someone prior to you built it and you got the job or went into that role and you got plugged into the most amazing system in the world. It's still a pretty common thing that people still feel stressed and they still feel overwhelmed and they still feel, let's be honest, that their email runs their day. And if we're really honest, depending on the industry, they also feel that it runs their nights and it runs their weekends. Now, I've got a background in a couple different businesses, but the one that I have the most experience in is going to be real estate. So real estate is a good example, and we're going to use real estate in this course. Now, this course is not meant for real estate. This course is a transferable skill. We're going to talk about a learnable, I can't stress these two words enough. It's a learnable and a transferable skill. So if you're watching this and you're in real estate, understand that there may be a point in your life where you're not in real estate. It's still a skill that you want to learn. And it's still a skill that you want to be transferable to whatever industry that you go to, whatever role you go into. And even if you are in real estate, maybe you're a real estate admin at TC, maybe you're an operations manager the next year, okay? Maybe you're a team owner another year. Maybe you're an agent, maybe you're a broker. There's so many roles just within that one industry. You want to learn a skill that's transferable. So we're going to talk about email management as its own system, email management as a skill, a learnable skill, and email management as a transferable skill. So that's what this course is all about, okay? Now, me as an instructor, my resume, I've done a few different things, but the majority of my career, most people have known me in some form of real estate. I didn't start in real estate. I started in the mortgage business, and I ran a lot of mortgages. Then I also became a manager at a mortgage company and started hiring, training, still running mortgages, blah, 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 blah. After doing that for a number of years, I went into real estate, became an agent. After becoming an agent, I became an agent and a trainer, an agent and a coach, a real estate coach. That was probably, I don't know, it's probably 20 years ago, maybe a little more than 20 years ago, okay? So I've been coaching for 20 plus years in one form or another, training for 20 years one way or another. After becoming an agent and doing the coaching and the training, then I went into being a broker. Now, if you're a broker, I hope you can train and you can coach because you're responsible for certain people with their licenses. So then I was a broker. Left the business for a couple years, really missed it. I just have a heart for the real estate business. But again, this is not a real estate course. This is a transferable, learnable skill. Okay. Then after I came back in the business, I had more of a heart and a passion for systems. And so I really went into systems and really wanted to dig into the back end of the real estate systems, which had to do with transaction management, listing management, and building systems in that and sharing what I had learned all the years before. Started building those out, coaching and training on those again. Once again, back to the coaching and training. Did that while helping run teams, stuff like that. Then eventually, about a year and a half ago, I left doing all of that and really just a full-time coach at this point for the last, I don't know how long, year and a half at the time of this video. So that is my background. So I've been coaching and training for 20 plus years. A lot of it has been in real estate, but some of it has been in other industries. And here's what I notice. Email management never even gets talked about in skills and in systems. Email management, you need to have an email management system. You need to understand that it's a skill. It's a learnable skill. It's a transferable skill. So I hope that helps. Welcome to the course. It's free. I would say share it with everybody on your team. Share it with everyone you know and care about who you want to help them have and see real work-life balance. Because if you can't manage your email and you don't have a system and a process for it, it will run you, it will run your friends, it will run your family's life, and from there, it will change the quality of their life because they will feel that they are being run rather than running their own life and having real balance. So hope that helps. That's going to be our introduction. Have a good day. We're going to go into the next thing is going to be the outline and objectives. So let me go through the outline in the next video with what we're going to cover. All right, let's talk about the outline and the objective of the course. The first thing I want to make sure you understand before we even go through the outline, I just wrote this down, but I can't stress enough how you need to know this before you go into this course and how important this next statement is to me. When we talk about email management, what I hear about all the time is people are going to list out this tool or that tool or this tool. This is non-tool dependent. This is non-tool dependent. Understand that we're talking about email management as a skill and email management as a system. And too many people want to rely on tools for their systems. If you have a great tool, that is not a system, okay? So I wrote this down. I'm just going to read it to you exactly the way that I've got it written down. This is a non-tool dependent course. I'm not going to get out there and tell you, go get this tool and go get that tool and go get this tool and that'll help you manage your email. This is not about tools. Never will be for me, okay? Tools come and go, by the way, and they change and they upgrade and they disappear. And there's always a new shiny penny out there. This isn't about tools. Tools are not your answer, okay? This is your answer. Your system is not your tools. Your tools are not your system. Your thought process, your mindset, and how you do something is your system. So that's really what this is going to focus on. This is a non-tool dependent course. And we're talking about systems built on your thought process, on your mindset. Your thought process, your mindset, and how you do something is your system. It's non-tool dependent. It makes me very sad when I see someone get into a tool and then they change the way that they'll do business, the way that that tool makes them do business. So they look at how the tool works and then they do business based on how the tool works rather than figure out how you want to think. Think about what you want your mindset to be, what you want your thought process to be, and then how you want it done. And then make the tool do that or go find a different tool. Okay? This is your system. Your system is going to be your thought process, okay, and your mindset. The next thing is, as far as if we go through the outline, pretty simple. You got to sit in front of you if you're in the course, okay? The only thing I want to hit on this outline is the longest videos. Some of the longest videos are going to be these 3 videos. I can't even stress to you how important is none of this down here. You may jump to something down here and go, oh, I love that topic. I love that topic. I'm going to tell you that this is laid out very specifically in a specific order because everything builds on each other. And although these might be some of the longer videos, some people may feel more comfortable if they actually watch the longer videos a couple times and take some notes because your mindset and how you define what an email is, that may sound so basic. Trust me, the way that I define an email might be different than the way that most people define their email, okay? Or define even what an email is. The immediate filter and questions. When an email comes in, there's a couple immediate questions and filters I have. Now, that used to take me a while to go through. Now, it's more like a reflex that's just automatic. Now, a lot of people hear me talk about batching. If you've ever been through any courses with me, I'm going to talk about email and email batching. The reason why this is so important, this is going to give you the general concept of batching or putting likes together. But the fact is you're going to see these batching folders come back quite a few times in a very specific manner. So when I talk about email batching, I usually just teach that because that's all the time I have, and maybe that's a half an hour to an hour class. Now with that, I don't get to go as in depth as to how I use it to benefit me in many other areas, okay? So that's going to be covered in all the advanced tips. The last thing is, I just thought it'd be fun to give you guys a little bit of a bonus material. And that bonus material, this is material from other courses of mine. I talk a lot about mindset, and I love what Les Brown says, and he has a formula. And what I've got is a 55, I think is what it is, 55-second video from Les Brown that it was a game changer for me when I heard this around 2021. When I was 20 or 21, what he said in these 55 seconds changed my life. And then what I do is I review 2 of my favorite books. So that's basically your outline, the objectives. The objective really is that you're going to leave, honestly, with a better life. That's a big statement. If you get through this course and you actually apply these things over the next 3 to 6 months, don't try to change everything in a week. Find the 1, 2 little things that you can apply right away. Then once you have those locked in, add another 1, 2, or 3. Don't get carried away and try to go from 0 to 60 overnight, okay? Build into this, grow into this. Your system is going to be your mindset, your thought process, and how you want something done, okay? Grow into this. Change your life. Change it, change it, change it, change it, change it. And you will see throughout this course, I'm going to continually bring up finding or creating peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion. All right, let's go. Have a great day. Okay, I really hope you're hardcore ready to dig in. We're going to talk about key principles of email management systems. Let's start with mindset and definitions. So let's get rid of the outline. So let's really dig in here. Email management, if we want to talk about it as a mindset, okay, first thing I want to make sure is that we understand it is its own learnable system. That's the first thing. Understand that it can be a system. It's not for most people. Most people, here are the keywords that you would, if we're going to be honest, that if you wrote down and really looked at them, you'd have to say either about yourself that you believe that those reflect how you've thought about and handled email in the past, or you could actually look at them and look at your business partners, anybody else that you've seen before, and say that's kind of how they think about it and work with their email. And that is, they are responsive and reactive. Responsive and reactive. If we think of a mindset about an email management system, okay, email management is a learnable, transferable skill and a system versus how most people think of email. They think it's something to be responsive to, and they are reactive with. I don't look at it that way, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this course. So the first thing is understand it is a system, it is a skill set, it is transferable, and it is learnable. Those are all things that as long as you start with that, that's a great place to start. The next thing is, let's talk about what a definition of an email is. That sounds like such a ridiculous thing to talk about. It's how do you define an email? Well, if you've got Gmail, it comes in your inbox. That is not an email to me, okay? If you get, I'm just going to use an example, okay? If you get, because this is the number I hear all the time. It's like everybody's on the same script. Here are the numbers that I always get. It's always a range of 200 to 300. Now, that's in my industry, if I'm in the real estate industry, okay? This, put it in place of whatever your industry is. This is not an industry-specific course. People will say, I get 200 to 300 emails per day. My first thought, and sometimes I have a good ability to think something and not have it come out of my mouth. When people say that, I don't have a great ability, okay? If someone tells me, usually a coaching client will say, I get 200 to 300 emails per day. Literally my first thought and what comes out of my mouth is, no, you don't. Not even close. You don't get 200 to 300 emails per day. And if someone wanted to prove it to me, they could say, do you want to see my inbox? I don't care what's in your inbox. You don't get 200 to 300 emails per day. I do get 200. No, you don't. Okay. Not if you define what an email is. Okay. That will right there change the answer to this. And then there's a second question that you need to ask. So the first question is how do you define an email? To me, what an email is something that requires something of me. I want to repeat that, and I hope it burns in your head. I hope it burns in your brain. I hope it burns in your soul that an email is not what comes into your inbox. First and foremost, define an email. An email is something that requires something of me. So if something comes in my email box, let's just be real honest about this. You know that this next statement's true. If an email comes in and it's junk mail, it's marketing. There's nothing for you to do, literally nothing for you to do. And you might not even open it because you saw the title and you know it's junk mail, and it's the same company that sends you 1 to 3 junk mails a day or a week. You might not even open it. That requires nothing of you. You're passive about it. Okay? So let's think of emails moving forward the rest of this course. An email requires something of you. Now, if you're correct and you get 100 to 300 emails per day, that's already that definition is going to change that from 300 emails a day to maybe 200 emails per day. And you and I both know that's true. If you're in a different industry where a lot of emails is 30 to 60, it may also cut that in a third to a half. An email is only considered an email to me if it requires something of me. That's the first thing. And that's a mindset change. That's just changing your definition. That's a mindset change. Am I spending a lot of time beating this horse? Absolutely I am. 100%. Okay? I want this in your head. I want this in your soul. I want you to understand that you want to redefine what an email is to you, because when you look at it, if you have a different definition of it, you think about it differently. If you think about it differently, you have a different reaction. It gives you a different emotional response. Yes, I'm going to repeat myself a bunch of times in this course, and I'm going to repeat that last line. If you define it differently and you look at it, it will give you a different emotional response. Now, when someone tells me, David, I'm getting 200 to 300 emails per week, let's be honest. Why are they even telling me that? Because it's giving them an emotional response. It's stressing them out. It's taking them time. Change the definition. Then when you look at it, if you believe that definition, that new definition, an email is only something that requires of me, it will change your emotional response. It sounds like I'm spending a lot of time on this. You get where I'm going at here? I'm not going after the technicality of an email. I'm going after the fact that the reason why we want email skills and we want an email management system, because we're trying to change our emotional response, how we feel. Whether we have peace, whether we have contentment, whether we have joy, whether we have gratitude, whether we have compassion. Boy, this is a weird talk for email management. This is the way I think. If I get 300 emails, it'll stress me out unless I think of those emails and I define them differently and I look at them differently. That's the first part of mindset. Let's define it differently. Let's go to the second step. Some of you are like, gosh, I wish you would have gone to the second step like 3 minutes ago. Okay, so what's the second step? The second step is, the first one is let's define it. It's an email is only something that requires of me. The second step is even if I had 300 emails, even if I did, and I take away the ones that don't require anything from me, no actions, nothing I've got to do, then the next set is, let's say that leaves me with 150 emails out of 300. I don't know, making up numbers here, okay? If it was 150, you still don't have 150 emails, even if all 150 of those required something of you. Let's go to the next definition. Do you really have 150 emails, or do you have a certain number of types and kinds of emails? Now, think of your personal life. Think of your business. Can you not take those 150 emails? And if you were being honest with yourself, you could take a notebook. I'm telling you, I would do this. Grab a notebook. And every email that comes in, this sounds like a big task. You'll find out it becomes smaller and smaller of a task and less overwhelming than what you think, okay? Which is this. Every email that you get that requires something of you. I can't stress that enough. Only the emails that require something of you. Something that doesn't require anything of you, that's not an email. Okay? There's the dead horse I'm beating right there. Okay? Every email that requires something of you, on the side, on a sheet of paper, categorize it. Now it sounds like, are you kidding? 150 emails? If I get 300 per day and I've got to do this 150 times every day, you won't do it 150 times. Think of your industry. So, I told you in the introduction is that this is a course that could be used in email management as a skill and system, blah, blah, blah. Could be used across all industries. But I have to pick a industry to say with one consistent example so I can actually make some sense through this course. I need you to take a look at this example I'm giving and not worry about the fact that I'm talking about real estate. Put this in your own mindset of what your business is and what's required of you and what's consistent in your business. So for transaction management, we know as transaction coordinators, we get new purchase agreements. So one category, I don't get 150 emails, I get 8 to 10 different types, kinds of emails. Yes, I'm going to start talking about batching. Of course I'm going to start talking about batching, okay? So that's nothing but categories. So I get a new email in. It's a new purchase agreement. The next email comes in. It is from the real estate broker, MCA, whatever you want to call it, in that particular brokerage. Whoever is going through the files and dealing with compliance, they're telling you what are the issues on compliance. So call it compliance. I don't care what you call it in your business, your anything. I'm just in real estate, I'm going to call it new purchase agreements. I'm going to call it compliance. Next one, it's real estate. Don't we deal with closings? Anything that deals with the closing, scheduling and closing, anything else like that, I'm going to put it there. Okay? Now, if I go through, and I'm not going to do this on every single category, if I go through every single email that comes in, even if it was 300 and 150 requires something of me, I still don't have 150 emails. I had 300. I redefined it. I realized I only have 150. When I get to 150, because the other 150 don't require something of me, what's the next step? It's not to think of it as 150 because you don't have 150 emails. You have 8 to 10 different kinds of emails, 8 to 10 different types of email. Every email fits into 8 to 10 different categories. Likes. I'll use whatever terminology resonates with you. Whatever terminology resonates with you. Folders. Come up with your own, whatever you want to call it, throw it on your piece of paper right now. Now, if you have 150 emails, after a couple, okay, so now I put new purchase agreement. Next one I put is compliance. Next one I put, it's about closings. I get to the fourth email. What's the fourth email? It's also a new purchase agreement. Am I writing that again? No. I'm going up to the first one and I just check off there's another one for that. Next email I get, it's another new purchase agreement. We love new purchase agreements, by the way. Okay. Now we've got 3 of them that are all in that same category. The next one, it's about closing again. Bam. The next one, it's about a category I haven't written down yet. Write it down. Now, you may end up getting to the point after you've done this a few days that you're starting to see some patterns. Patterns, patterns, patterns. Kinds, types, folders. Again, use whatever terminology you want. Redefine what an email is. It's something that requires something of you. Next. Oh, look at you. You're so upset. I'm telling you, we are going to be crazy casual in this course. This is Squirrel, and what she just heard is I think we have UPS right outside. That's very upsetting to her. She just woke up. So anyways, here's the deal is, think about this, guys. I told you this is going to be a crazy casual course. Oh, I know. So here's the deal. What we've got, oh, I love you so much. Oh, you want to be picked up again. So here's the deal. Squirrel made her appearance in the course. Here's the deal. Once you get through those different categories, if you notice this, you don't get 300 emails. You get 150, and then you don't even get 150. What you get per day, now let's redefine our verbiage. I cannot stress this next part enough. Your language that comes out of your mouth matters. Your language matters. Your choice of words matters. Why does that matter so much? Why does it matter so much? You could pause this right now and answer that. Put that in your journal right now. Why do you think your choice of words matters? It will change. What did we talk about at the beginning of the course? It will change your emotional reaction to something. Your sense of peace, contentment, all those things that we talked about. So here's the deal. If I walk in, and let's say there are, the number says 300, but I actually walk in, and not only do I say, but I know in my heart and soul, it doesn't even cross my mind that I have 300. Because I know it's not true. It's a lie. What's true? I can walk into any day of my email, regardless of what the number shows, and say, I've got 8 different types of emails. That's all I got. That will change your spirit. That will change how looking at your email screen resonates with you and whether it provides stress for you. Okay? So let's talk about next steps, if we redefine it, if we categorize things, and we know, depending on your industry, if you're a transaction coordinator, it's going to be different than if you're an ops manager. If you're a real estate agent, it's going to be different than if you're a listings manager. Okay? Think about what your role is. And I have a hard time believing there's any role out there in any industry where you have 150 different types, categories, that kind of stuff. You can't convince me of it. It's a lie. You're telling yourself a lie. Why do the words that you choose matter? Here's the way I think of it. We can come up with a lot of answers, and I can do a whole hour-long talk just on this, but let's keep it simple. Here's why it matters. What you say, you tend to believe after a time. If you've said it enough times, you tend to believe it. So here's what I'm going to tell you. Whatever comes out of here automatically goes here. It's nothing but a loop. It's a loop. If you continually say, oh, they're blowing up my email, stop saying that. I can't stand being in an office and someone says he's blowing up my text, he's blowing up my email. That came out of your mouth, just went in your ear, and what it did is it gave you an emotional response. In this course, am I talking about an emotional response? Absolutely I am. But David, we're talking about email management. If your email's stressing you out, it's giving you an emotional response. Just start talking about it. Jeez Louise, let's be honest. It's affecting you emotionally. It's affecting your mental health. It's affecting your stress level. All those things that it's affecting, do you think that just goes away when you walk out of the door at work? Give me a break. You and I both know that's not true. Not even close to true. Careful how you say it. So here's the deal. I can walk into my email, and if I'm going to say anything out loud, I've got 8 different types. I got 8 different types of emails today. The ones that there's nothing for me to do, those aren't even emails. They're junk mail. I don't even think about them. I literally don't even think about them. Okay? All the other emails, they can be categorized. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take some next steps on this. This was a longer section and a longer video than it probably needed to be. I probably repeated myself on certain things 3, 5, 8 times more than I needed to. I could have said it once, and you either got it or you didn't get it. You either took the notes or you didn't take the notes. Do you get the impression that I feel pretty passionate about this? I feel pretty passionate about us changing our mindset. Hardcore passionate. Change your mindset about your email. Define it differently. Look at it differently. Talk about it differently. And for Pete's sakes, learn the skills to manage it differently. Okay? All right. Tons of love to all you guys. We'll move on to the next section. But I am hardcore serious about every aspect that we talked about. This may be the section that's longer than it needs to be. It may be the section that you need to hear twice, 10 times. We are talking about your skill set, but let's be honest, we're also talking about your mental health. We're talking about your sense of peace and contentment. Now, if you also end up learning this skill and you end up putting a system together, understand that this isn't just about you anymore. It's the last thing I'll say, and then we're just going to close. Understand that everything that you do, if you now can learn how to do this as a skill and put together a system that brings you peace, brings you some contentment, not stress, not overwhelming, okay? You can do it with joy. You can be grateful and have gratitude. You can build this system and learn this skill because you have compassion for yourself and you don't want to be stressed anymore. If you do all of this, do you realize everybody that's on the opposite side of those emails is you have the ability to affect the level of peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion that they receive as well. This may all sound like the goofiest conversation in the world. I would listen to this a bunch more times if you still think it's goofy. Figure out what in this conversation, even a few little nuggets, if it's not the whole thing, what few little nuggets could you listen to and they resonate with you like nothing you've heard before. Fine, don't grab the whole talk. Grab those couple little nuggets and build from there. You guys have a great day. Let's go on to the next section. All right. I hope that last section did something for you. That's what I get passionate about. It's going to be one of the longer videos in this entire thing. So let's knock this next one out. But I really hope you found something of value in there. So if we go to the next section and what it's going to be, we just finished. Let's start with mindset and definitions. And let's go to immediate filters and questions and make wise choices. So you're going to have this when you get into your course. You'll see this outline. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and just increase my mug on the screen, and let's have a little conversation here. So when I get the emails, we already know, we defined it. If it doesn't require something of me, it's not an email. If I then take away those, everything else can be categorized into certain categories or batches, folders, whatever you want to talk about. I'm done talking about all that. The next thing is this. Let's assume now that we have a proper understanding of what an email is and we have our folders determined. Now, I can dig into a little bit more on that, on how to do that and so on and so forth. But let's just assume that you have your 6 to 12 categories, 8 to 10, whatever it is for your industry and your role. You have your batches figured out. For transaction coordinator, I think we mentioned a couple of them. New purchase agreements, something about compliance, something about anything that deals with closings, blah, blah, blah. You can go on and on and on, okay? A new email comes in. How do we filter that? We need to build up a skill set. And I may have mentioned this in the introduction, I can't remember. But what I'm about to say, when I started doing this, took me a moment to kind of process. And when I say took me a moment, I mean it took me a moment every time I got an email. Now, I don't even think about this. This is instantaneous. So here's an encouragement. What I'm about to say may seem like it's slowing your process down just a little bit to be this specific. And if you have to put a Post-it with this on your computer to make sure that every email that comes in that you just look through this little checklist, I'm telling you, until this becomes automatic, do something that requires you to make these next decisions. But eventually, have some faith. This becomes automatic. This is literally a reflex, and it's instantaneous. So it's instantaneous to me right now. When I come in, I ask basically 3 main questions. Number 1, can the email be handled in 30 seconds or less? If it can be handled in 30 seconds or less, I just answer it. I don't filter it. I don't batch it. I don't do anything with it other than just answer it and be done with it. Okay? Now, if you really are getting 200 to 300 emails per day, there's a number of those emails that, quite frankly, are things that you've already handled. It's just someone else hasn't seen that you've handled them. You might have even sent them an email. They may already be a Google Calendar invite for them for the thing that they're asking about. They just have, somehow they're out of the loop. Okay? And you may have done an amazing job to put them in the loop. They're just out of the loop. Who cares why? The fact is, I can handle that in 30 seconds. Hey, David, the Johnsons wanted to know about getting a closing scheduled prior to noon next Thursday. Okay, Joe. Goodness gracious. What is wrong with you? Now, this is what I'm thinking. This is not what I'm saying. Joe, we had 5 emails go back and forth that you were copied in on every single one of those in the last 2 days, which means I've been actually the one handling it, which is kind of funny that you're asking for it to be handled now because you've been copied in on every single time and I've had your back this whole time. Number 2, it actually got settled and you were copied into that agreement that everybody agreed upon it. Number 3, not only did it all get agreed upon, but it actually got scheduled with the closer. They sent out the closing notice, and I actually put that on your calendar and on the customer's calendar. So not only did you receive an email with a copy of the closing notice, but it's actually already on your calendar. In other words, it's been handled. Okay? Catch up. Actually read what I send to you. Read what I put in your calendar. Now, you may be feeling all those feelings. Am I saying any of that? Not even close. Not even close. What's my answer? Dude, Joe, you're the best in the business. I'm all over that. You may not have seen it, but I did actually already get that taken care of, and it's on your calendar. And a copy of the actual closing notice has been emailed to you, and it's actually attached as a PDF on your Google Calendar invite. Customers are stoked. Love you, Joe. You're the best in the business. Have an awesome day. Take care. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you. I can type that in about 15 seconds. Okay? Why do I handle anything that can be handled in 30 seconds or less? Why do I just take care of it? Because throughout the day, I can get 20 or 30 of those. If you add those up till later on in the day, that can get overwhelming. 30 seconds to me is not overwhelming. 30, having a stockpile of 20 to 30 that are 30 seconds, just creates stress. Just knock it out and get it done with. Okay, so that's my first thing I ask. The second thing is going to be, I don't like this word, I don't even like this attitude, but I'm going to say it because it's the one before you take this course you may have said yourself, so let's just get it out in the open. It's either a fire or emergency. Okay, give me a break. How many real fires are there? How many real emergencies are there? If you're doing your business well, that's a lot less than we give it credit for, and I would change our vocabulary. As I mentioned in the previous thing, there aren't a lot of fires and emergencies, if you want to call them that, but let's be honest, there are some things that definitely have an immediacy and a priority to us. They need to be handled. Here's the deal. You're a professional. You're a grown adult. You can read those emails and make wise choices. That is something that has a crazy amount of high urgency. So I've got things that aren't high urgency, but quite frankly, they can be handled in 30 seconds or less. Just knock those out. The next one would be what someone might call a fire emergency, okay? It's something that you need to take care of right away. So let's stay on the same example of real estate. What would a fire and emergency be? I've heard people tell me what they think their fire and emergencies are, is that someone's standing in a home and it's in the basement and the water is above their knees. Okay, I would argue that that's not an emergency. And I can tell you why. We won't go into all of that. Here's what an emergency is to me. Okay, or I've actually heard they're standing in the house and it's burning down. First of all, you have a problem. Why are you standing in that house? Get out of the house, okay? Here's what an emergency is to me, a legitimate emergency in this industry of real estate. Agent, closer, lender is sitting at the closing table. They email, call, or text, but right now we're talking about email. And they email and say, hey, by the way, we are missing this particular amendment, document, whatever it is, and we're not going to be able to close. Everybody's at the closing table, but we're not going to be able to close because we don't have a copy of that. I know that I have a copy of it. I know that I've shared it with everybody. I know that I've actually got it in our drive for everybody as a shared document. Everybody has received it. I'm not going to reply back is, are you kidding me? What is wrong with all of you guys? I've already shared all of that. No. Here's the thing is, I know that I've shared it. Here's the deal. It's not closing unless they get it. That's an emergency right now because we have people that cannot get across the finish line due to the fact that something's missing. Someone dropped the ball, didn't remember to either put it in the file, bring it to closing, whatever it is, no matter whether you did everything right or not. It's still an emergency, okay? We're professionals. We know that that's important. We know we don't get to close and get everybody across the finish line unless we handle it now. That's what I'm talking about as an emergency or fire. Things that just need to be handled in a timely manner, which might be a timely manner is now, okay? You're a professional. You can make those decisions and you know if that's what this email is. First one, can you handle it in 30 seconds or less? Number two, it's an immediacy, okay? And you know what that means for you in your business. Now here's the thing. Once you got your batches and everything else like that, this is the next one that we're going to talk about, you'll get better and better at determining what really is an emergency or not. Right now we give too many things the credit of being an emergency or something that needs to be taken care of immediately. Now, the next one helps us with that, okay? And eventually we'll make wiser choices and there'll be fewer of these second ones. And that is this. You look at the email and you determine not that it needs to be handled now. It may still need to get handled today, but it doesn't need to be handled within the next 5 minutes. Otherwise, there's a drastic impact on someone else. But it does need to be handled today, okay? I typically am going to time block checking my emails, and I mainly check my emails and handle my email batching folders about 5 times per day at specific times of the day. So we'll get into that in a different section of this. So this next one is this. It's not 30 seconds or less. It's going to take me longer than that to take care of it. Number two, it's not an emergency or something that I have to do right now. Number three, it's something that needs to be handled other than right now. It's going to take longer than 30 seconds. And I don't care if it needs to be handled today, this week, the next 2 weeks. It's just not now. So here's what you do. You're going to filter it. You're going to batch it. Here's the number one missed aspect on this. And I do get people that will start batching. They get high excitement on, oh my gosh, I'm starting to batch and it's really starting to work. And their stress has not gone away. Do you notice how I keep going back to your emotional response to things? Your emotional response matters. If it's still stressing you out, there may be something we need to tweak in that system, okay? So people will start batching and they still feel high stress. It's because they're missing usually one key ingredient. You acknowledge and then you batch. That's the key missing ingredient, is the acknowledgement. So an email comes in, doesn't need to be handled in, or can't be handled in 30 seconds or less, doesn't need to be handled right now. What do you do with it? You can handle it later. You don't handle it later without responding immediately. What's that response? Literally, it's one sentence, or two, doesn't matter, okay? But the fact is, hey Joe, thanks so much. I'm all over it. Have an awesome day. Let me know if there's anything else I can do for you. I acknowledged it. That brings their stress level. You're bringing them peace and contentment, okay? You're having a little compassion for them that they have stress. And the fact that you acknowledge, it's like, okay, David's all over it, okay? All I do is acknowledge. That brings your stress down, that everybody's okay, brings their stress down, and then you batch it. To batch without acknowledging is not a good system. Okay, 30 seconds or less. Needs to be handled right now. You're going to batch it. If you're going to batch it, never ever batch anything without acknowledge and then batch. Acknowledging is a key missed ingredient that will bring everything that you do has to create peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion. Have compassion for others. Have compassion for yourself. Now you've got a little compassion for yourself because you brought down your stress. That, okay, I've acknowledged it. Everybody's aware of the fact that I've got this, and then I'm all over it. Everybody's okay means I'm okay. Okay? When you acknowledge, you also bring their stress level down, which means you have compassion for them. Okay? There isn't a single thing that I do that isn't informed by those 5 words. Non-negotiable to me. Okay? So, I hope that helps you. Let's move on to the next section. We talked about mindset and definitions. We talked about immediate filters, questions, and making wise choices. Okay? Now we're going to talk about the benefits of batching. Some of it may seem obvious, but we need to speak it out loud. By the way, there is one thing, and I'm going to admit I totally missed this, as far as the mindset and definitions. And then I had mentioned that the very first thing is when we define it, does it require something of us? Okay? And one of the first things that we notice is that we get junk mail, and that doesn't require anything of us. What's the other one that doesn't require anything of us? And if you are doing your business and you're great at your business, there's one that I didn't mention, I absolutely should have mentioned. Thank yous. Thank yous require nothing of me. If I get 300 emails in a day, I guarantee you there's a large chunk of them that are not emails because it doesn't require anything of me because they're junk mail. The second most popular category, sometimes it's the most popular category, that is not an email. If I'm doing my business well, I get thank yous all day long. I do something, I take care of something, I get a quick email that says, Dave, thanks, appreciate it. Gosh dang, love it. That doesn't require anything of me. They're acknowledging me. Doesn't require anything of me. So let's just make sure that we get that out of the way. Okay? So let's go into the benefits of batching. Now, I'm going to go ahead, put my big ugly mug on the screen. So let's talk about the benefits of batching. Okay, a couple things about batching. I know that some of these may seem crazy obvious. Make sure that you know these, you believe these. Speak these to yourself, to those that you work with. Here's the deal is, multitasking is overrated and it's ineffective and we all suck at it. Okay? Now, I'm a little harsh on this topic because I think there's people, and I literally just got off a call within the last hour that we were talking about multitasking, and we were also talking about someone who just said that one of their greatest assets is that they were amazing at multitasking. No, you're not. Okay? Multitasking is not an asset, and it's rare that anybody would say, I'm a great multitasker, and they're correct. Okay? So there's a crazy amount of books just on that one topic. So I won't dig any deeper, but get the concept that stop thinking of multitasking as a gift or as a good thing, okay? I want to move you in a different direction here, okay? If you batch, what you are doing, let's put it in second grade level terms, we're putting likes together. There are two huge, maybe a couple more than two, huge benefits to that. Number one, if you have likes together, when you get to that folder, don't do one email from that folder, two emails from the next folder, one email from the next folder, two emails from the next folder. Get in that folder and knock it out. Otherwise, you are missing the benefits. You're completely missing the benefit. What are the benefits of doing likes all at the same time? First of all, remember I talked about your spirit, your mind, your soul, okay? You're being able to focus on one thing at a time, one topic at a time. If it's compliance, you're dealing with all of the compliance issues. If it's just closing, you're dealing all with closing issues. So a couple things. What it does is it just calms you, because I don't care if you got ADD or not ADD or whatever it is. It's stressful to bounce from here to here to here to here. That's going back to the reactive and responsive that this industry seems to thrive on, which I will never understand, okay? When I say this industry, I'm talking about real estate, okay? We want to take something and be amazing at it. Because if we're amazing at it and we get a great system about it, we can do it much more calm, with peace, contentment, so on and so forth. But more importantly, not only for ourselves, but the way that we do it will produce that for those around us. So think about it from this point of view. If you do things well, you do things efficient, you do things accurately, that will bring peace and contentment for you, because there's less kickback from all the mistakes and stress. Also, it brings peace and contentment for everybody that you work with, because let's be honest, if you're not doing it efficiently, if you're not doing it accurately, all the types of things that we just said, I guarantee you the people you're serving do not have peace and contentment. Okay? So now if we get on one train of thought, I'm only handling closings right now. I'm only handling whatever it is, appraisals right now. I'm only handling new purchase agreements right now. Pick any category, and there's multiple things. Number one, you have a sense of calm. Now, it may be a lot, and so you still don't feel that calm. I'll guarantee you that you would feel less calm if you were adding more categories into it. You have more, it's bringing you more peace and calm than you think it is, okay? You're able to focus. Now, when you focus, what is the result of that? Typically, you're single-minded and you just knock out that one thing. If you only focus on that one thing, and there's 5 of those in that folder, and you do that same one thing 5 times over, you never lose track of what you're focused on. Are you not going to do a better job? I think you are. I think there's 2 huge benefits. Number one, you're staying in one lane. So you will just be, you're not all over the place. You will do a better job. Now that better job, you should feel good about that. But the people you're serving, they will feel much better about it. They won't notice that they feel better about it until you stop doing a good job. Okay? That's just a reality. Sometimes they don't know how amazing you are until you stop being amazing and stop doing things well and stop doing things accurately and stop doing things efficiently. All of a sudden their stress starts to go up. It almost feels like you're ignored when you're doing an amazing job. That's the goal. I know that sometimes we would like to be praised, we'd like to be acknowledged, all those types of things. Understand that sometimes when you're doing the greatest job that exists in your area, in your field, in your role, you can feel ignored. The alternative is that you don't do a great job, you aren't efficient, and you make mistakes. I guarantee you, you'll be acknowledged. Not in a way that you want. I can't stress enough that mindset that it's okay, maybe not what you want, but let's admit, would you rather be the best at what you do and not be acknowledged just because everything's going so well they don't know that there's anything to even talk about? Or would you rather not be the best in the business and you're acknowledged on a pretty regular basis in a way that realistically, you might not even be in that role that much longer, okay? So now let's talk about we're doing a great job. The other thing that it's going to do, if you do the same thing over and over and over and over again, you're going to become more efficient at it. So those 5 emails, if you did that one email, went over and did a bunch of others over here, then went and did this one, then over here, then over here, then over here, each one of those you'll be a little less efficient at. Now that is something that had someone, I think I mentioned earlier in the course, someone did a side-by-side with me. And they said, one thing that I've noticed is, I expected to see a little more razzle-dazzle out of you, and I thought I was going to get something more impressive than what I'm seeing. Whatever, I can't remember all of her verbiage. But she had heard some great things about me, and she had heard what I do, and so on and so forth. So she thought she was coming to watch some amazing thing. And she said, you're just crazy efficient. You actually do everything that you say that you're going to do. You do it exactly the way that you tell people to do it. And you have just a little bit of extra efficiency in everything you do, almost without exception. And when you add those all up, you're more accurate, you're more efficient. It's amazing because they're all the little things. And I'm telling you, we're going to go into some advanced tips that are a bunch of little things. And I mean a ton of little things. And I do apply almost every single one of them on a fairly regular basis, okay? Now, every once in a while, I might have a virtual assistant actually acting as me in my email and everything, and she might do 80% of those. So someone might look at my stuff and go, he doesn't do it every time. Well, that one might not be me. I'll be honest with you, okay? If it's me in there, it's pretty consistent, okay? So here's the next thing. So not only will you be more consistent, not only will you be more efficient, not only will you do a better job, okay? The fact is you're also just going to get things done. So when I knock that out, I can then move on to the next one. And when I tell people that, okay, if it can't be done in 30 seconds or less, or it's not an emergency, and it is a batched thing, and I still want to get it done by the end of the day, okay, I don't let things sit in those folders. So people ask me on a regular basis, and this is an important question, how do you know when you batch it that it's done? This is a 2nd grade level easy answer. I take it out of the folder. Well, how do you know what's done and what's not done? Okay, do you kind of use, and this is a common one, do you kind of use your inbox and the unreads as your to-do list? Absolutely not. Okay, absolutely not. Okay, if it's undone and I still need to work on it, it's in a folder. How do you know if it's done? Because if it was done, it wouldn't be in the folder anymore. Literally, I'm talking, it's that easy, 2nd grade level. Well, what about the things that are unread in your email? There's almost nothing ever unread in my email. If it comes in, do you remember when I said that you've got those filters? I quickly asked myself, and now it's almost a reflex. I don't even think about it. Can it be answered in 30 seconds or less? Is it an emergency, or does it need to be filtered? Every time an email comes in, it literally doesn't take me any time at all. I just click on it, open it, I make that decision. If it can be done in 30 seconds or less, I'm done. So it shows red, it's in my inbox, I don't even think about it anymore. If it's an emergency, I handle it. And if it can be filtered, I acknowledge and then I sort. How do you know it's done? If it's in the folder, it's not done. When I finish it, like in Gmail, I can't remember what they call it, labels or something like that, rather than folders, whatever you want to call it, okay? I just call it folders. All I do is I uncheck that folder, basically untag it. It removes it from that folder. It's now in the inbox, and it's read, not unread, it's read. Everything. Then people also ask, so when do you determine if you're going to delete an email or not? I don't delete anything, ever. Other than all my texts. I delete every text that ever comes in. I handle it and I delete it. On email, everything in email is in email now and forevermore. I don't delete any of that stuff, okay? Well, what about all your unreads in your email? There are none. Now, when you start, I was on a call yesterday and someone did a screen share and they had a little over 7,000 unread emails, okay? Get that in check. You're not going to read those. Give me a break. Just mark everything as read and start at ground zero. You are not reading 7,000, whatever it is, emails. Get over it, okay? Start afresh. So that is how I do it. I hope that helps. The batching is very, very, very important. Come up with your categories, understand. Then I'm going to set a schedule with when I'm going to go after those folders. That'll be in another video. Once I'm done with it, I remove it from the folder. That's how I know that it's done. Now, based on whatever industry you're in, so for real estate, I use a virtual whiteboard, and if I get it out of that folder, it would also be in my system that thing is done. So I'd mark those, if it's a task list you've got, if it's a virtual whiteboard, whatever it is, you'll mark those as done, all that kind of stuff. So I hope that helps you. That's a little bit about batching. Let's move on. I'm kind of laughing at myself a little bit for this. The title of this next section is called Advanced Tips. I really don't think anything in this course is advanced, okay? Which is sad to me. I think everything about email management is really common sense based, but the fact is we never talk about it, okay? So we'll call it Advanced Tips. I don't think it's a great title, but here's the deal is, the key principles are really where we want to start. We want to start with mindset and definitions. I know I hit that real hard. Immediate filters and questions. Reminding ourselves that we have a couple immediate filters and questions, but when you start, they may not feel very immediate. This may be a new process for you. I would say cheat, 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 cheat. Put a little Post-it up on your laptop, on your screen, on your whiteboard. Have a whiteboard in front of you, whatever it is that reminds you to ask the questions every time an email comes. Now, for me, it's can I answer it within 30 seconds or less? Is it something I need to handle immediately, or can it be filtered? If it can be filtered or batched, as I usually like to say, I'm going to acknowledge and batch. I would have that on a little thing until that becomes automatic. I don't even think about that stuff anymore. That is totally automatic, like a reflex, okay? So that's some of the things, and then benefit of batching. Obviously, you're gonna become more efficient, and you're just gonna do a better job. That's just all there is to it. Stay focused on one thing at a time, one category at a time, and if there are 5 emails that all hit that same category, that same batch, whatever it is, stay in that lane until you're done. You'll do a better job. You'll do it more efficiently. Just do it. Now, the next thing is the advanced tips. Here's the only thing I want to say about the advanced tips right off the bat. Right off the bat is that this is a living, breathing course, meaning this. Typically, if someone has a question after going through the course, a lot of times I'm just going to answer them, whether it's email, text, or a call, or a video call. I'm fine with that. If I receive the same question or comment 3 or more times, it's rare that I will continue to answer that question. Okay. That just means that enough people have it. What I'll probably end up doing is recording a 5-10 minute video, and I will add it to here. So understand that this course could look different 3 months from now than it does the day that it came out. And that's fine. You guys build the future modules in this course. So I think they allow me, I don't know if it's 10 or 12 in one section. So if it is, I'll end up renaming this to Advanced Tips 1, and then we'll go down to Advanced Tips 2. I don't care. Reach out to me if it's something that you have a question about or you think would bring value to other people. Now let's dive in to some of these advanced tips. I am crazy specific about the fact that every single one of these adds a little bit of efficiency to your system, and if you can do them, and you know them, like you know your own name, or they're a reflex, or whatever you want to call it, these just become who you are and the way that you do business. Everything about your email management, your stress level will keep coming down, and you will serve people at a higher level. I think that's crucial, okay? And if you are becoming more consistent, more predictable, everything that you do looks like everything that you did before. Everybody knows what to expect out of you, and you do a better job. You basically reduce everybody else's stress, and everybody else has more peace and contentment as well. And that's you having compassion for yourself and you having compassion for everyone else. And the level of gratitude that everybody will have for each other is huge. And you'll feel some joy. All right, here we go. All right, I hope you guys are ready for this one because I didn't name this one. The title of this is going to be the Breckheimer sandwich. Okay, here's where that came from. Is I believe that when we're talking about an email management system, I literally have a system for every aspect of it. So you've already heard a bit about that system. There's a system for the mindset, changing the definition. There's a system for when an email comes in, the way that I think about it, the way that I filter it, what questions I ask about the email. There's a system for how I look at emails and determine how I'm going to batch them. So there's a system for that. So how I filter them and put them into specific like categories. Then there's also, once I reply to an email or I'm the initiator and I send the email, there's also going to be a formula, go figure, there's going to be a formula so that I don't even have to think. That's the key here. Don't even think. This needs to become a system that is automatic to you. So that system that we're going to talk about in the next two things, the first one of my coworkers nicknamed it the Breckheimer sandwich. And that is when I write an email, I typically already have a format in my head. And that is, quote unquote, the Breckheimer sandwich. And that's this. Here's the basic outline. Start with gratitude, end with gratitude. The meat is in the middle. Okay, now here's what it is. It's usually 4 parts. There's usually 2 pieces in the middle. So we start with gratitude. Then it goes to educate. Then it goes to ask or offer. Sometimes we're asking for something. Sometimes we're offering help. Okay, so it's going to be gratitude, educate, ask or offer, and finish with gratitude. So it's a coworker came up and said that that's basically the Breckheimer sandwich, okay? Because when we do our emails, we start with gratitude and we end with gratitude. That's important to me. That's just who I am as a person. Who I am sometimes is who I am all the time. So that's not going to change when I'm communicating at work versus in my personal life. And it's not going to change when I talk to someone personally or if I write them an email or I send a text. I typically like to start with gratitude, end with gratitude, and then what is in between is what we're talking about. So here would be an example. Now, what I've done in this course, and we're going to keep doing this in this course, please use your creativity. If you're not in real estate, you're not a transaction coordinator, trust me that I could be an ops manager. I could be a small business owner. I could be a salesperson. I could be a dentist. I could be a lawyer. I could be anything, and I would still think this way and have a system and a formula for writing emails. So when I'm about to give this next example, I'm going to talk about it from the point of view that I was a transaction coordinator, and we're going to be asking about appraisals. And I'll just stick with that same example for the next couple of things that we do. So if we're checking on appraisals, this is what it might sound like. And I'm literally improvising this, but I've written this so many times. This is about what it sounds like when it's written down as well. I'm going to start with gratitude. Let's just say that the lender's name is Joe. Good day, Joe. Just wanted to thank you for all your hard work and great communication. Plain and simple. It's one sentence. Good day, Joe. Just wanted to thank you for all your hard work and great communication. Next, it's going to be educate. Now, because an appraisal usually it's done one day and the lender usually doesn't get the results for 5 to 7 days, that tends to be a long period of time for a lot of agents, clients, and everything else like that. So if they don't hear anything in day 1 or day 2, they start to ask, has anybody heard anything about the appraisal? So what's the educate part in this scenario? Hey, good day, Joe. Just want to thank you for all your hard work and great communication. Educate. I know typically the lender does not see or receive a copy of the results from the appraisal for 5 to 7 days. I just educated. Now everybody wants to know, do we have an update on the appraisal? If we don't have an update, why don't we have an update? Just educate everybody. So I'm addressing him, letting him know that I'm a professional and I know this industry. I know it inside and out, and I know for a fact, why would I ask a question of, if I'm a professional, I know it's going to take 5 to 7 days. Why would I ask? Just because everybody's asking me, David, do you have an update on the appraisal? Most people will automatically just ask for an update on the appraisal. Don't you already know the answer? Be a professional. Why would you ask a question that you already know the answer for? The answer being is, hey, do you have an answer for the appraisal? Or do you have an update on the appraisal? You already know that the answer is no. So instead of asking an inappropriate, in my opinion, unprofessional question, ask a professional question. But do it with educating first. So, hey, I know the lender typically does not see results for anywhere from 5 to 7 business days. Now, here's the ask or the question. Is there any chance that you've heard from the lender or heard from the appraiser that you may actually receive the results sooner than the typical 5 to 7 business days? If not, we will reach out to you between next Tuesday and Thursday. Once again, Joe, thanks so much for your hard work and great communication. That's what it is, okay? Now, here's the beautiful thing. When you think about going into an email system, I'm literal. I'm not talking figurative here. This isn't theory. I'm literal when I say every aspect of what I do in an email system is already predetermined. I'm not improvising. I literally believe that that's what the average person does with their emails. They just improvise. They get an email, someone asks them something, and they just quickly type what their thoughts are. It's almost as if emails, they have a bit of almost like a stream of consciousness. Okay, someone asked me for an update on the appraisal. I'm going to quick email the lender and only the lender and say, hey, do you happen to have an update on the appraisal? If you were to slow down and think about it, aren't you a professional and already know that he wouldn't have the answer? So if he doesn't have the answer, is there any way that I could email them? Start with gratitude, end with gratitude. Show some respect. Okay? Be a human being and love on someone, for Pete's sakes. Okay? Then from there, ask a question that's appropriate. If you're a professional, you already know that he doesn't have the answer. So copy everybody in on the email and educate everyone. Hey, Joe, thanks for your hard work and great communication. Number 2, educate. I know that typically the lender doesn't typically receive a copy of the results from the appraisal for 5 to 7 business days. Ask or offer. Just touching base with you to see if there's any chance that you heard from the appraiser that you may actually receive a copy of those results or hear about the results prior to the typical 5 to 7 business days. I just told everybody, leave Joe alone. Joe doesn't know. Now, why am I asking the question? Because I already know everybody wants to know and everybody's asking. And if I don't do this and copy everybody in, what does Joe get? Joe gets anywhere from 2 to 5 separate emails saying, on day 2 or 3, do you have an update on the appraisal? I'm a professional. I already know that he doesn't. Okay. So what I'm telling you in here is what I want you, there's a lot of things that you could get. If you rewatch this video a few times, there's probably about 4 or 5 points here that you could take out of this. The purpose of this section was to let you know that it's pretty rare that I'm going to go into an email and it's just stream of consciousness. Someone asked me something, so I quickly reply. I quickly ask, those types of things. Okay. I quickly react. I respond. I don't react and respond. Okay. Like that, like most people think about it. I actually already have a formula in my head for every email I'm going to send. So I'm going to recommend to you that part of your email system is think about what would be in your industry, what would be the most professional way to respond, and what would bring peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion, both for yourself and the person that you're emailing. And what I would recommend that you do is come up with a formula that works for you. What works for me, as my coworker called it, the Breckheimer sandwich. I'm going to start with gratitude. I'm going to end with gratitude typically. That's very, very, very common for me. I'm not saying I do it every single time, but I will tell you it's probably 90% of the time. It's just that common for me when I'm dealing with, say, a transaction or I'm in the middle of something that's professional, okay? So it's going to start and end with gratitude. I'm going to educate and then ask or offer. Think of what your formula is. Write it out. Get specific. Get specific when you're going to write, because here's the beautiful thing. Now you go into your email and you're actually much more calm. Peace and contentment. You're much more calm when you write the email because you're not improvising and you're not doing this off the cuff. You already have kind of a formula that you use each and every time. That is part of my email system. Now, the next thing that we're going to go into is, go figure, I probably have a formula for the subject line as well. Okay? I'm just that consistent and that predictable. Everything has a formula and a system. All right. We'll talk about the email subject line in a moment. All right. Let's move on. We just talked about I'm always going to have a formula. Now we're talking about an email system here. Okay. So if I take the whole email system, I've already kind of walked through each step with you multiple times now, and I won't do that again on this video, but I will tell you, do you notice that there's a system for everything? And we're going to go through a number of them. But the next one is, I just got done with, I have a formula, a typical template outline. I'm not talking about email templates right now. Okay? Email templates are something where you've saved 20 or 30 of those and they're already pre-written and you can just send them out. What I'm talking about is I need to email someone, and in my head I already know how I outline every email and it's consistent. Now for my email, we talked about the Breckheimer sandwich, which is start with gratitude, end with gratitude, the meat's in the middle. So gratitude, ask, offer, gratitude. Okay? Now, let's go into so that's kind of my formula. That is just my default. every single time I open up an email. And if it's other than that, I have to almost force myself to be other than that, because sometimes that's more than what's needed. But the fact is that is my default. If I just start typing, that comes out automatically. Now, there's also an automatic for my subject line. So as we talked about, you can be in, say you're a fitness instructor, say you're in real estate, say you own a restaurant business. I don't care what business that you own. I don't care what business that you own. Don't look at this next example and say, this doesn't fit my business. Get creative. Something does. What I'm telling you is come up with a formula that works for you and makes sense, and it just becomes automatic like a reflex to you on that subject line. So the subject line for me in real estate is based on years of experience, and I want to show you how I got to where I got. So first I'll tell you what the formula is. In real estate, I'm going to start with the street address. Usually abbreviated, but the street address. I'm not going to do the whole city, state, zip, all that stuff. It's going to be 123 Main Street, and street is abbreviated ST. Okay? 123 Main Street, space, dash, space. Now it's going to be the seller's last name to the buyer's. So it's going to be, there's going to be 3 parts to this. So that's the second part. 123 Main Street, dash, Johnson's to Nelson's. Whoever is selling to who. Okay? Johnson's to Nelson's, T-O. Space, dash, space, then whatever it is. Copy of whatever. Closing date change amendment. Whatever the subject actually is going to be the last part. Okay, now I'll tell you how I got there, but let's just repeat that. And no, this is a formula that is so consistent for me. It's crazy. I don't even think about it. Again, your system needs to be a thought process, and it needs to be a well thought out process. So you'll see how well thought out my formula is and how I got there. You come up with your own that works for you, but I'll tell you how I got mine and then use it for your industry and create for your industry. But mine is going to be the address, then who both parties are, seller to buyer, and then whatever the actual subject is. Okay, so now how did I come up with that? I came up with that, and I'm a little blessed in the sense that I've been in a lot of areas of real estate. I've been in the mortgage business. I've been an agent. I've been a broker. I've worked on the admin side for the transactions and the listings. Okay, the only thing I haven't kind of done in that entire thing is going to be the title person or attorney. But as you can imagine, I've done thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions. So how many times do you think I've dealt with the closing person or the attorney? Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. Okay, and on a lot of my transactions, we're going to have a different closer on both ends of the transaction. We're going to have a different attorney on both ends. Now, I've also done this across multiple states where sometimes I only have one for both sides, but generally speaking, it's one on each side. So however many thousands of transactions I've had, I've dealt with closers and attorneys times 2, because there's usually 2 of them. So why did I come up with that formula? And I want to make sure that you understand why I'm going through with the how on this, because I want you to look at your how, because your how is going to help you determine your what. Okay? What are you going to put in the subject line? Think about how you would get there. So here's how I got to my what is this. So I think that a listing agent talks and addresses their client. When they're talking to their admin, they talk about their client and address them differently than a buyer. So when I have a listing agent, this is what I hear a lot of times. Hey, David, and when I get a question, David, what's going on with 123 Main Street? You notice they gave me the address. Okay, because a lot of times it was a lead, they went out on a listing appointment, and it's all about that property. They're doing a market analysis on the property. They're making sure that they price the property correctly. They're making sure they understand the market for that property. A lot of it is about the property. The property address comes up a lot. Not saying they don't use the customer's name and they don't care about the customer. That's not the point here. What I'm saying is when they ask questions, it's what's going on with 123 Main Street? Okay. Now, if it's a buyer, the buyer sometimes, Now, according to an agent, they may say they'd be lucky if they only worked with the buyer for 1 week. They went and showed them, their first 1, 2, 3 properties, and they put an offer on one of those and got it. But generally speaking, most agents work with the buyer for a much longer period of time before they land on a property. So they don't think property address. They've been talking to the customer for 3 months, maybe working with that customer for 6 months before they found the right property. So when they ask me, hey, David, what's going on with the Johnson file? So 2 different agents, one typically is going to mention the address. Another agent is going to mention the client. Now let's just say I'm in the middle of a transaction, and I also have, whether it's the lender, whether it's a closer, or whether it's one of the 2 agents. Anybody uses a client's name, one side is always going to ask me about the Johnsons, who is our clients, and the other ones are always going to ask me about the Nelsons. So now what I've gotten between all of these people is I've got some people will speak to me in address terms, and title company may do that as well. What's going on with 123 Main Street, okay? Or the attorneys and the agents may say what's going on with the Johnsons or what's going on with the Nelsons. So if I ever need to go ahead and ask a question, share anything, I want all 3 of those things in the title for multiple reasons. Number 1, can you say professional courtesy? Okay. When you are addressing people, let's give the courtesy that some people go by the address, some go by the buyer's name, and some go by the listing client's name. Okay. So if you send a subject line that doesn't immediately click with them, can't you do better than that? I think you can. Do better. I'm not asking if you can. I'm telling you to do better. Do better. Not for you, for everybody you serve. If you send a subject line that they even have to pause for 1 second, seriously take this to heart, this next line. If you send a subject line that even for a split second, they have to go, what file is this? And they have to read a little bit farther to try to figure out. Basically you're requiring them to be a little private investigator to even figure out who you're talking about, what you're talking about. You can do better than that. Give them what they need. And everybody needs something different. So I have the address, I have the buyer's and the seller's last name. At least everybody has one piece of information that they can relate to. Don't worry about whether you can relate to it. You've got all 3 of them in there. There's something you can relate to. This isn't about you. This is about the people you're working with, the people that you are serving. Okay? Remember, we're trying to create peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion. Okay? Now that's for you and for others. Okay? So think of that subject line, then whatever the topic is. Now here's the beautiful thing, multiple beautiful things on this. Number 1, it becomes automatic. You just start writing it that way. And as I do transactions, some people say, I don't know, it's kind of a long subject line and I don't want to have to type that each and every time. You don't think I actually type that every time, do you? Someone who sat side by side with me says, I just figured out one of your secrets. You're the master of cut, copy, and paste. 100%. Okay? To type is 2 things. Number 1, it's not that efficient. Number 2, it brings in the opportunity to make errors. So a lot of times if I'm going to send an email, I use Gmail. I just type in 1, 2, 3 main, and every email that's ever existed that I've sent on that, all of those will come up. I just cut, copy, and paste one of the subject lines all the way through all the names, space, dash, space. And then the only part that I'm actually typing is whatever it actually is. Now, do you see? That's a system, a thought process. Are you going to do it exactly like me? Maybe not. I would recommend it. The idea I want you to get in your head is, do you see that I have a formula for what's in my email? Do you see that I have a formula for my subject line? Get that consistent and that predictable. Now, I told you there's multiple things that there are benefits for. So what's another one of the benefits? The first benefit is you're actually being compassionate to everybody that you're working with because nobody even has to think twice. Instantaneously, there's something in that subject line that they can relate to and know what you're talking about and who you're talking about. Don't require them to be a private investigator. Be better than that. Then the next thing is this. I live with my Gmail. My Gmail is huge to me. Now, if someone I'm not kidding how important this is. People talk about, yeah, just Google that. Are you kidding me? It's the same search engine in Gmail that it is in Google. The search engine in Gmail is so underused, it's ridiculous. But you can make that Google search or that Gmail search even more powerful by being consistent in the way that you title things. Now, I worked with a team lead that, I can't believe it, every month, consistently, every month, for years that I worked with him, there was never, almost ever a month that 1 to 3 times per month, he would ask me about a file, about a transaction that never was sooner than 3 years old. It was usually between 3 and 5 years old. Here's the thing is, I don't care if 3 to 5 years later he walks up to me. Think of how powerful this is. My criteria is nothing should take me more than 30 seconds. I have a 30-second rule. Nothing should take me more than 30 seconds to find. So if he walked up to me and said, I know it was 3 to 5 years ago and I don't remember the client's name, but it was at 123 Main Street. I wanted to know, I don't care what he wants to know, okay? I can start typing in 123 Main right in the Gmail search. Everything that we've ever done for that customer on that property is right there. Now, he could also walk up to me and go, it's 3 to 5 years ago, but I don't remember the address, but I do remember it was the Johnsons, and they had sold to the Nelsons. I can type in Johnson or Nelson, okay? So let's say I type in Johnson, and let's say it's a fairly common name. It may be a common name, but it would actually pull up, not in 30 seconds or less, probably in 5 seconds or less, it would pull up every property that we've ever done anything with for a Johnson family. Guess what? It's probably only a couple addresses. I can show them on the screen, go, is that going to be 123 Main Street, 3456, whatever, and just name a couple addresses and go, that's the one. Okay, great. Then I'll just type in that address. What you're doing then is if you have a formula for your subject line, you can find anything in 30 seconds or less, and I don't care if that transaction was years ago. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next thing. That's the email subject line. Have a formula. That's the point. Have a formula for the way you write emails. Have a formula for how you title them. The next thing we're going to talk about is why do I CC or carbon copy and blind copy everybody in on almost every email. Now this will be industry specific that I'm going to talk about real estate again, but I want you to think about this outside of real estate as well. This is a transferable skill and this is just crazy powerful. Okay, as you can see, every step, I have a system for everything. Okay, if you put all of these together, this is an email management system, not just a thought process. This is a full system. Every aspect of what I do has its little formulas and its little system. So when I send an email, the next one that we talked about is using and adding into your system a powerful feature called CC and BCC. So copying people in and blind copying people in. Okay, now here's the way I want you to think about this. Again, I could bring this into almost any industry. Okay, now the reason why I'm going to use real estate on this one is not just to keep it consistent with the course like I've been talking about. The reason why real estate is a great example of this is because there are so many hands involved in one single transaction. Now, where this may be one of the first features we talk about that may not apply to every industry. Sometimes in your industry, you're never dealing with other than one person directly. That's fine. This may not be appropriate for you. You could just bypass this one, okay? But I will tell you this, if there's anybody involved outside of that single person that you're serving, I would say listen to this anyways and see if you can pick up any tips and tricks, tools that will work for you. So here's the way I look at it from a real estate perspective. So let's go back to the exact same example I used a couple modules earlier. And that is, let's go back to real estate and we're looking for an update on the appraisal. So who typically orders the appraisal? It's the lender. So when someone asks an admin, a transaction coordinator, anything like that, hey, have you heard anything about the appraisal? Have you received an update on the appraisal? Here's the number one most common thing that the admin will do. Nope, I'll touch base with the lender today. And they immediately will email the lender, and that's it. They email just the lender, and that's it. So here's a couple things. I had mentioned before that I have a formula for the actual email, okay? What it says, and that's the Breckheimer sandwich, as we mentioned. So it starts with gratitude, educate, ask or offer, end with gratitude. So that is the formula. I have a subject line totally formulated as well, okay? Now, here's the main thing is, think about it from this point of view. If you are in an industry like real estate where there's a lot of hands in this particular transaction, think about it from this point of view. If you're the lender, how, and as a transaction coordinator, how do you keep up with all of your emails? Now, I'm giving you formulas to do that, and I'm giving you systems to do that. But do you think the average lender that you're going to talk to thinks like what we're talking about in this course? He doesn't have a full-blown email management system. He's flying by the seat of his pants, and he's overwhelmed with the number of emails and doesn't know how to deal with it. So if you're going to ask about the appraisal, aren't you one person out of a bunch in that transaction? Now think of this. So now you're going to ask for an update. The other agent's going to ask for an update. The buyer who's been working directly with the lender is going to ask for an update. He is not just getting your one email. He's getting 3 to 5 of these emails. So here's a couple things. Number one, he's also getting them before the results are even available. So here's where you come in and you can serve everybody and provide that peace and contentment we've been talking about and have a little compassion for everybody involved in the transaction, including the lender. So here's the thing is, number one, if you copy everybody in, you also are the initiator of these questions. So understand a couple things, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but I am going to send my email sooner than I know that the results are available. And my goal is I know when results are available. I know when people start to ask. There's 3 timelines. When the results are really available, when do people start to ask? So if results for an appraisal is 5 to 7 business days out, people start asking 2 to 3 days in. My goal is to be the initiator of the email that gets sent out prior to these 2 timelines. Now, because it's prior to those 2 timelines, I can have a crazy amount of compassion for everybody involved because I go first. And when I go first, I do multiple things. Number one, I educate. You know that's part of my formula for my email. Number 2 is the ask. Is there any chance that you'll know prior to that 5 to 7 days? The next thing that I didn't mention, though, in those previous modules, I copy everybody in. Why? Because if I can go ahead and be the initiator of this conversation and I copy everyone in, I'm showing compassion to everybody involved in the transaction, in particular the lender, because now everybody has been educated. I'm telling you right now, we've already asked the question, so now he doesn't need 3 to 5 more asks. Number 2 is that you've educated everybody that you don't even need to ask again, because not only have I already asked, but he doesn't have the answer. Okay. Number 3, when he replies, he can actually give everybody the reply instantaneously rather than him being required. So there's 2 parts here. Him being required to reach out to 2 to 3 different people, or he just replies to you and then you've got to reach out to 2 to 3 different people. Everybody, it becomes more efficient for everybody. Okay. Now, here's the next part of this is, and I haven't talked about the blind carbon copy yet. I'll get there in a second. But here's the next part of this is, if you're doing this and you do this on a regular basis, it's funny how many people I will see in different threads and different groups and professional groups and admin groups and stuff like that complain that they swear so-and-so never uses reply all. I don't get bent out of shape on that. I just realize that some people are doing things quick. Not everybody is as detailed and system-based as I am. I'm okay with that. It's going to happen. It's probably going to happen more often than not. So he just clicks reply. He gives an answer that, quite frankly, was kind of meant for everybody. But he only clicked reply, not reply all. I'm still going to use my format, which is gratitude. I got the meat in the middle and gratitude at the end. It's a Breckheimer sandwich. So I'm going to go ahead, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go 1 email back on the thread, click reply all, cut, copy, and paste his answer, assuming it's appropriate to share with everybody. Okay, I'm not going to go into that. You're a grown adult. You can make those decisions, okay? But I'm going to go back once on the thread. I'm going to reply all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with gratitude. Hey, Joe, got your answer. Thanks so very much. That really helps. Can't tell you how much we appreciate all the work that you're doing and the great communication. It looks like that may have just gone to me. Just in case anybody was looking for an update, here's what Joe had to share. And then I will paste that. And then I'm going to finish. Once again, Joe, thanks for everything. Let us know if there's anything you need before the end of business today that I can be of help with. Done. Okay? Done, done, done. So I said there was one more thing before I get to blind carbon copy, and that is this. I'm fine using peer pressure. Okay? When I send emails, there's good cop, bad cop. I'm always a good cop. My emails, I want them to be so nice, so grateful, all that kind of stuff, to the point that they are so sweet that he gets a cavity on my emails. Okay? I am good cop. I'm always good cop. Okay? Now here's the deal is, I want to copy everybody else in, because if I'm the transaction coordinator, don't you notice that sometimes you email and you never get any replies back? I'm okay with a little peer pressure. If I email them and I copy both agents and I copy both closers and I copy both attorneys, I'm not kidding myself that sometimes the lender on the other side is, oh gosh, I can't stand this guy when he does this. Because now if I don't reply, I look like I suck at my job. I look like an idiot. I look like I'm not staying in communication. I'm fine with that peer pressure if that gets me the answers. I'll do it in a sweet and nice way. But don't kid yourself. I know that that's going to bother some people. I don't care. I need them to reply. We have a job to do. Do it in a polite and professional manner. It's okay to use peer pressure. If the guy wasn't going to answer, the gal wasn't going to answer, unless we put that peer pressure on, I'll do it in a nice way. But don't kid yourself. I'm going to do it. 100% I'm going to do it. I'm all for the peer pressure. If that's what it takes, and that's what we need for him to be upset enough to go, fine, I'll just reply. Geez, I can't stand when this guy does it. Now, sometimes I get one-off emails from those, I don't care if it's a lender, attorney, or whatever, and say, I don't like that you're copying everybody in all the time. I consider that unprofessional. I consider blah, blah, blah. Okay. I'm not going to get in a back and forth with this person and say, well, I think you're unprofessional that you're not answering me, okay? I'm just going to go into, that's actually our company policy. If there's something that you can't share with the whole group because it's private information, private customer information, or something went wrong or whatever, you don't have to hit reply all. You can just hit reply to me and let me know that you need to talk to me about something or whatever, and we'll deal with that. But at this point, I do copy everyone in, and part of it is I'm trying to save you time so you don't get 2, 3, 4, 5 emails, or you don't have to update 2, 3, 4, 5 people, okay? This will allow you to become more efficient and get everybody in the loop just through one email, okay? The last part I'm going to mention is the blind carbon copies. So you need to understand that this will be a little bit more industry specific, but I use real estate because there's so many things that we can talk about in real estate where I can talk about all of these systems. If I used a different industry as an example, some of these things may not apply, such as the carbon copy that we just mentioned, blind carbon copy also. So if I'm going to ask for that appraisal update, here's my feeling. I blind carbon copy the customer in on everything I do. Why? Okay, I let the customer know right up front. Here's the deal is we think that you deserve to know how hard we're working on your file. We think you deserve to know how often we're working on your file. We think you deserve to know what type of questions we're asking the lender and the closers and everybody else. So here's how we do that. When we ask an initial question, such as on an appraisal, asking for an update and when we'll receive it, we're going to blind copy you in. Okay? Now, because you're blind copies, there may be a couple replies. You won't see any of those because they don't even know that you're blind carbon copied in. Okay? But here's what's going to happen. That may go back once or twice, back and forth once and twice between everybody that's on the email. It might go back and forth 12 to 15 times. You certainly don't need 12 to 15 extra emails. So what I'm going to do is once I think it's gone back and forth enough to the point that we've gotten a resolution, here's how I end every email. Now, did you notice that how I end every email? I have a system for that too, okay? How do you end an email thread? Don't discount the importance of that. It'll do two things for you. So how I end an email thread is based on this. I'm going to take what everybody has said and I'm going to summarize. By the way, I just want to thank everyone for their hard work and great communication. This was awesome teamwork. I appreciate it. I want to summarize what I think the final resolution was. Blah, 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 blah. Once again, if there's anything in there that's incorrect, please let me know. Otherwise, once again, thank you everybody for all your hard work. Really appreciate it. I do that for two reasons, because then I blind copy the customer in on that final reply. So now the customer actually knows the results. They know what we asked and they know what the final result is. It's that simple. Okay. Number two is this. Have you ever thought that the result was one thing and then once you find out later that you were wrong on that? Or you said to someone, it looks like we're going to do this and this. And in real estate, here's a conversation that happens a lot. Actually, that was accurate according to our email. What we didn't know is that the two agents were having a conversation on the side and they were negotiating some things with the customer and they ended up with a different resolution. We're going to have an amendment in regards to that tomorrow. Okay, so here's what it does. Number two, it gets the customer in the loop with what got asked and what the final resolution is. And what it also does is when you think you know something, but you weren't in the loop on every single email and every conversation, which every admin in this business has experienced that and experiences it on a regular basis, that they are not included in on every single email and every conversation that's going on. What ends up happening? Now, when you state what you think the end resolution is, someone will go, whoa, 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 why did you think that was where we ended up? That's not where we ended up. We're going with this, this, and this. That might be the first time you heard that it actually went in a different direction somewhere in a side conversation. Okay? Get what you're doing. Get it right. Sometimes you don't know if you're getting it right without telling everybody where you assume where we ended up with and someone has to correct you. Would you rather be correct? I'd rather be corrected all day long and know the real answer and the correct answer so that when we come to closing, we don't have surprises and now we got to back it out another week or two for a client. Okay, so told you, formula for what is in your email, formula for the subject line. Then the tool of using carbon copy and blind carbon copy with your customers. Now there's a lot more that I can go into about that, but I think that this video is plenty long. So we're going to move into formatting, another key to becoming more effective and efficient. Talk to you guys in a minute. All right, so the next point is going to be about formatting. Okay. Now think about how many emails you get. And I hear from people all the time, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, is I get 200 to 300 emails per day. First of all, you already know my answer to that. No, you don't. Okay, but let's just say you do get a lot and you've got a lot on your plate and you have a lot to deal with. How about having some compassion? Yes, I'm going to keep going back to that. Okay. How about having some compassion not only for yourself, but those that you're sending the emails to, that they may be overwhelmed with their email. Okay. Now, you might be able to go give them this course or go teach them that you can actually not be overwhelmed by your email and there's a system and a process for that will make that easier for you. Give me a break. You know as well as I do, there's a ton of people you're going to work with in your career that will never get any of this. And they literally are going to be stressed out and run by their email all day, all night, and all weekend long for the rest of their lives. That's all it is. Okay? Do you really want or need to be part of that problem? Be better. Be better than that. Care more than that. Care more than that. So, how do you do that? Understand that if they're getting overwhelmed by their email, that a lot of their emails that they get could be in paragraph form and they're this long. Give me a break. If they're overwhelmed by their email, how are they going to read 100, 200, 300 of those? That's ridiculous. Make this easier than that for them. So think about what we talked about before, that Breckheimer sandwich, that title, those types of things. So if you've got what we call the Breckheimer, I'm almost embarrassed to say it, but someone else came up with that name, that Breckheimer sandwich, where you have your formula, come up with your own. Mine's gratitude, starts with gratitude, ends with gratitude. It's got obviously the education and then the ask or offer in the middle. The meat's in the middle. So here's the deal is, what I didn't tell you is every aspect of that is specifically formatted. I cannot stress that enough. Keep your emails fairly short, fairly specific. The gratitude line that starts it is 1, max 2 sentences. Okay? Then there's the education. That's usually 1 to 2 sentences. The ask or offer. Here's how I format that. I get specific. Now, I'm going to use real estate as an example again because we have lots of people involved in that transaction. Okay, so be specific who you're speaking to. So I will actually put question for lender. I will make that bold. I will then put a colon. I will then enter. There's my pup. She hears the mail. Or UPS, one of the two, and it bothers her. So here's the deal. I'm going to put question for lender, colon. That's going to be bold. Then I'm going to enter. Then I'm going to start doing bullet points. Here's the beautiful thing about that. So I ask, let's say, 2 questions. When I'm done with those 2 questions, or the offer, whatever it is, then I'm going to finish with that gratitude, and I'm done. Here's the beautiful thing. They open that email. This is the easiest email to read out of the 300 that they've gotten today. Care that much, be that good for them, okay? Don't you want results? If your email takes forever to read, they may never get to it. They want to open it. They may even bypass your gratitude. It's 1 or 2 sentences. It looks like nothing to them. But then it says, in big bold, question for lender, and then they see that there's just 2 bullet points. How many people just scan their emails? They could now scan your email and actually get everything that they need. Okay, so there's a question for lender, and you wanted to know this, and you wanted to know this. They literally can do that in a scan in a couple seconds. Now, here's the other beautiful thing. Because I had mentioned in the previous video, you're going to carbon copy and blind copy everybody else in. You now didn't just do that for the person that you're asking a question of. You did that for everybody involved in the transaction because they're busy too, and they're overwhelmed by their email, and they don't have the time of day for your lack of professionalism. Be better. Be better. Okay? Be better. If you need a Post-it to remind yourself to be better, do better, then take that Post-it and throw it right on your screen. Make sure it's the most annoying, obvious thing that you can find. Here's the thing is, everybody that's reading that email, if you've got 5 people, you've carbon copied, you've copied in the lender, both agents, both closers, blind copied the customer, and they're all getting a couple hundred emails, and they don't know how to manage and properly manage their email. Your email is going to be the easiest one for them to read of anything that they got all day. It's going to say question for in big bold. They know who's being addressed. If I'm the agent, I don't have to worry about, okay, did he ask the lender such and such a question? The easiest email that they had to read all day was the one you sent that said question for lender, and they saw 2 bullet points. They can scan that in about 3 seconds and know that you asked the question, who it was to, and what the 2 questions are. And then be done. Start with gratitude. Educate. Ask or offer, end with gratitude. I'm not telling you that this is your formula, but I want to give you an example so that you can see you can come up with a formula. So I have a formula for the email. I have a formula for the subject line. And then it's going to be templated in a very specific way that makes this the easiest email they're going to be able to read or scan. When I say scan, I'm talking about just quickly reading. Okay, not actually technically scanning it like on a printer. Okay, just scan the email and they know what's going on. Then, I also mentioned in a previous video, everybody's copied in on it, everybody involved. Okay, so now you've given everybody peace and contentment and had a little compassion for them because now you just saved everybody time from having to send out basically the same email that they may not have written as well as you are. They may have written it in paragraph format, so they know that things are being handled. Okay. Think about formatting. It's one of the most important things you're going to do in this email. If you don't have a template, a standard formula for the contents of the email, you don't have a consistent formula for the subject line, I would still say keep your emails as simple as possible and format them. If you do nothing else in the way that you do emails, do that. Okay? Make it as easy as possible for them, that they would rather scan and read your email than the other 90 that they're dealing with right now, because yours is easier, more well thought out. All right. Hope that helps. Let's just see what the next thing is. The power of folders when onboarding or training and handing over folders to your assistant or VA. So the next video is going to talk about if you're actually working with someone, an assistant, a virtual assistant, anything like that, an executive assistant, and you have them in your email, whether that's a permanent part of their role or whether that's just how you onboard them as a training mechanism. So let's talk about that a little bit. Hope this one was helpful for you though. Okay, I'm going to apologize right up front is two things. Number one, I've started a little coughing fit, so I hope I don't cough through this thing quite a bit. I'll do my best. Second thing is this particular topic may not relate to everybody. So there's a few of you, you're just going to bypass this one, and that's okay. Your industry, if your industry expects you to be available and expects you to monitor your email 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, then this one may not be for you. But I want to go back to our consistent example here. If you are an admin, transaction coordinator, listing coordinator, whatever it is, and it is a spoken rule. There's spoken and unspoken. There's a spoken rule that you're kind of that business hours, Monday through Friday up till 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night. The unspoken rule is that you will continue to monitor those emails, and if someone has an emergency or a real need, and an email comes in at 7 or 8, and I've also had this where agents say, I emailed 6 times on the weekend and I didn't hear from you. Okay, so there's two things there. Number one is, as far as email management and systems, there are certain things that you're going to have for email management and systems that have nothing to do with email management and systems. Some of them have to do with just setting proper levels of expectation and having proper levels of understanding between you and another human being. Whether that be an agent of yours, whether that be a team lead of yours, whatever it may be, setting proper levels of expectation is crucial. Then you have a system in place and you need to work that system. So let's talk about the expectation levels first. So when I am a transaction coordinator, and like I said, there's some people that this section may not relate to them. Maybe your career does expect you to be on call 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and you're always supposed to be monitoring your email. That's not the case for a lot of admin in real estate. So let's talk about them for now. And you can relate this to other roles, other industries where you're not expected to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So here's basically what I do is I let people know, and I'm just giving my verbiage, come up with your own, get creative, what works for you, what speaks the truth of what you're trying to convey. Don't use the words boundaries and all that other kind of stuff. Here's what I let the agents know. And I'm going to use an example of transaction coordination. Okay, is if there are 100 tasks involved in a transaction, I'm going to own 98 of those. You're going to own 2 plus 1. Okay. Now, what is that for me? The 2 that they're going to own, the agents are going to own, is negotiating contracts and drafting documents. Okay. That's not usually the way I say it. The way I say it is you will always fight for the customer and you will always draft the win. That's my actual verbiage. And then I can translate it for them if need be. Now, let's say you're a transaction and you have one other responsibility. So you own 2 plus 1. We're going to get to that plus 1 in a second because that's the one that we're really talking about here. So now let's say you're an admin that you do negotiate and you do draft documents because that exists as well. Okay, that's fine. There are 100 tasks involved in a transaction, and whatever your real number is, some will say 50, some say 100, 150, whatever it is. We're going to use 100 as an example. If there are 100 tasks involved in a transaction, I, as your transaction coordinator, I will own all 100, and you will own one thing. Okay? So what is that one thing? You will own sense of urgency outside of business hours. I will repeat that again. Get that phrase down and then know how to explain it to them. Is out of 100 tasks, I will own all 100 tasks. And you will own one. Not out of the 100, but a separate task. And what is that? You will own sense of urgency outside of business hours. So what did I just say to them? Within business hours, I'm going to write, I'm going to draft, I'm going to negotiate, I'm going to do all those types of things that we agreed upon. It's part of my job role, whatever it is, okay? But I'm available Monday through Friday up till 5 or up till 4, up till 6, whatever your time is. And I'm just going to use 5 as a general number for right now. So you're available Monday through Friday up till 5. Now, at 7 o'clock at night, if the agent has, let's just say, an amendment, changing of a closing date, whatever it is that needs to be drafted, here's what the agent is allowed to own. They don't have to own it, but they're allowed to make that choice to own it. Now, this will get into the emails in a little bit. I'm setting proper levels of expectation and having great communication with them. So you can own sense of urgency. So at 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and you want an amendment written, if it needs to be written right then and there, or you're standing with the customer, whatever it is, for any reason that it needs to be written, and there's a sense of urgency, and you want it done right then and there, after business hours, you have the right to own that if you choose. It needs to be done now, I'm just going to do it. Now, 9 times out of 10, nothing's as much of an emergency as we give it a credit for, okay? So if you need that amendment written and it can wait till the following business day, think about that if that's Friday night, okay? That's Monday then, okay? But any other night of the week, it's the next morning. If what you're looking for can be handled the following day, just leave me an email that you need that done the next day, and I'll take care of that the following day. If you need it done that night, you have the right. You're not required, but you have the right to own sense of urgency as an agent and just knock it out yourself. If you're okay and you'd prefer that I do it and you're okay with that happening the following day, then I will own that. But in the evening, you will own that. Now, next phrase, okay? So that's the first part of it. This is a conversation with people. Once we get through this conversation, you'll see how this fits into an email management system. So the second part of that conversation is as an agent, I can't stress this enough. I hear other admins say I've got to set boundaries. I'm telling you as your admin to my agent, I will never set boundaries with you because here's the situation. I don't want you to think about my boundaries. I don't want you to worry about my boundaries. I don't want you to do anything that it takes to help protect my boundaries. That's not your job. Now, some admin might not like that statement. Once you see where it goes, I think you'll like it, okay? But understand that I am going to stress to them trying to protect, honor, or respect. Protect, honor, or respect my boundaries. Key is not their job. That's my job. My job is to protect, honor, and respect my own boundaries. And you know what? I'm going to knock that out of the park. I will honor, respect, and protect my boundaries. I don't need them to do it for me, okay? So here's the situation. If something comes up at 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, I don't want you to have to, I need to protect their boundaries. I won't reach out to them. If you want to, pick up your phone, call, text, or email, understanding that what you are doing is you're leaving me a message, whether it's any one of those sources, okay? Because I'm available up till whatever it is, 5 o'clock business hours. You can have the right to own urgency and take care of that if you don't want to wait till the following business day. But if it can wait till the following business day, don't worry about my boundaries. Pick up the darn phone, text, call, or email me, preferably email. Tell me what you want, and I'll get it taken care of the following day. Okay? That's how that works. Don't worry about my boundaries. I'm not going to answer the phone anyways. It's just all there is to it. It's my job to protect my own boundaries, not theirs. Okay? So that's the first step. So we have that understanding with them. You have to set proper levels of expectation and have great understanding between two people. Okay? So that's step one. Now, how does this fit into the email management system? So email management, how do I handle my emails on nights and weekends? Now, I'm not telling you that this next way is the way you want to do it. I think there's 2 popular ways to do it. There's a third that I don't like. I'll mention it though. 2 popular ways to do this to have a healthy work-life balance is going to be number 1, turn off your notifications. Don't even look at it all night. Deal with it all in the morning. If you're in an industry where you might only get 1 email overnight, who cares? You can wait till the following morning. You'll see it when you get in there. In my industry, in real estate, I could get 1 just as easy as I can get 30. You can have a lot of them throughout the night or throughout the morning or whatever it is. So here's what I like to do. I don't like to ignore them because that stresses me out when I come in the morning, and it stresses me out because of this. I don't know what I'm coming into. That's unacceptable to me. So you may not want to do this next step that I'm talking about. This is what's comfortable for me, and it creates for me peace, contentment, joy, crazy gratitude. I can explain why it creates gratitude for me, and it's compassion for myself. Okay, compassion for those that I'm working with. Why does what I'm going to do to create all those things? So what I do is I do have my what do you call them, alerts on, okay? And I see my phone and an email comes in. I literally do this without thinking. You will not do this without thinking right away. You will get to that point, okay? So what I do now is more of a reflex. I get a notification that I have an email. I do this usually in 3 seconds or less, and I literally don't even think about it. There is no emotional response to it in any way, shape, or form. Not true when I started it. It's true now. In 3 seconds or less, all I do is I open it, I look at it, and I determine what type is it, and I sort it. That's it. Okay? So I told you in the previous thing, when I sort and I batch, put likes together, I acknowledge and then sort. I don't acknowledge, just to answer that question, because I just recently got that question. Do you still acknowledge on nights and weekends? No. If you acknowledge, they may see that you're available. So no, I don't on nights and weekends, okay? Now, when I get in the morning, here's the beautiful thing, and this is why it creates such peace and contentment for me. When I come in the morning, there may have been 12 emails that come in. I have no emotional response to them, no emotional attachment to them. What I literally do, and this all takes less than 3 seconds for me. Open, look, determine the type, and I batch. Done. There's no emotional attachment. Why is that so important to me? Crucial to me. Nights and weekends. Let's just say it was Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday. I come in on Monday. I already know what I'm walking into. I have no emotional attachment to any email I saw all the weekend. I don't even read the whole thing. I get the general feel of it in 3 seconds or less, and it's filtered. What I know, what kind of volume am I walking into on Monday? Because I saw them all. I had no emotional attachment to them. I did nothing with them. I just filtered them. I walk in not stressed in the morning on Monday going, oh, I wonder how many emails came in. Or getting to the office and going, oh gosh, I'm so afraid to turn on my computer or open my computer. I don't do any of that. We're going to talk about kind of the power of the folders. Now, I've talked about batching in the folders. Now, there's a lot of things that you've heard about this, how that becomes powerful to me. So batching is one of them. That was earlier in the course. You probably just got done watching a video that talked about why those folders actually also provide extra benefits to me and extra power to me on nights and weekends. Okay? I can walk in the next morning, I'm already pre-organized. The next thing is this, and this will probably be in this video series, might be the last one I talk about folders, batching, or anything else like that. There is more that I could say, but I think that this gives a pretty good generalization if you tie them all together, why they are so important to me. So this last one, what is it? It's about onboarding, training, all of those types of things. Whether you've got someone in your office, I'm working with a virtual assistant over in the Philippines. So I'm going to go back and once again, is this appropriate for your industry? For your industry, this may or may not work. For my industry, it has worked, and I know that it would work for a lot of other industries as well, okay? And that is this. When I onboard someone, and what I'm going to talk about, because I think it's a topic that a lot of people are trying to figure out, is working with a virtual assistant, okay? So I could talk and use this in context of hiring someone that's in the office, sitting at a desk next to me, but I want to stretch our minds a little bit more and also hit the audience that does have virtual assistants and how would you do this with them. So let's use that because that's a little tougher example. So let's tackle the tougher one. So let's talk about transaction management. When I first hire a virtual assistant, okay, what I know is that most of our training in this industry is pretty schizophrenic, okay? And that's because of the way that whether it's virtual assistant or whether it's sitting someone side by side. Think about this in your industry, but in real estate, I get one email and we're talking about a brand new purchase agreement just came in. The next email, which is on this part of the timeline for a listing or transaction. Then the next email that comes in, we're dealing with the appraisal. The next email that comes in, we're dealing with an inspection. The next email comes in, we're dealing with a closing. We're schizophrenic. We're all over the board. So one of the first things I do with any hire that's say a transaction coordinator, but in particular a virtual assistant, is we're going to narrow their focus, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to help them know how to do a specific part of the transaction, and I'm going to break the transaction typically into 3 parts. One is when we submit the file or when we first get the purchase agreement, it's basically opening the file, that whole first group of activities that we do when we first get a new file. I'm going to teach that, and they're going to learn that, and you'll see how this all comes into email management in a minute. But they're going to learn just that part of the process until they can own it and knock it out of the park. Then I'm going to show them, once it closes, what do we do with it? How do we close the file out? How do we change the MLS? How do we get all the closing docs to our broker? How do we get the check? All that kind of stuff, okay? So that's the next part. So they're going to own one part, then they're going to learn the next part and own that as well. And then you've got the middle section, okay? So how do I teach them about that middle section? That's where this email management comes in. Usually when a virtual assistant is going to start working with me, in particular in transaction management, I'm still the one who owns all the work and owns all the files, and I'm the one that's responsible for it. I don't just give them their own email and give them their own files and say, good luck. I hope this works well for you, okay? You're going to work with me on my files for a while, and you're going to log into my email, and you and I are going to live out of the same email and the same calendar and the same files, okay? Eventually, then you'll have your own business and your own files and everything else like that. So when they first come in, here's the first thing that I do for training. I think teaching them the entire process is too schizophrenic, so I'm going to give them one area that they can focus on and learn. But how do they already, without knowing that I'm doing this, they are really learning the whole process? They're focused on one thing, but they are learning the whole process. And that's because of this. The first job that they get is they are there to monitor and organize my email. I think in the last video I said that I may be done talking about folders. I'm not. Okay. This one, I'll talk about it again. My batched folders and everything else like that. I've got folders for transactions that would be new purchase agreements, closings, compliance, go on and on and on and on. So when they come aboard, I'm going to show them exactly what we do. So I'm thinking of a specific day. I ended up getting 14 brand new purchase agreements in. So we got great repetition going through how she opens up every single one of those files and what she does to start. Okay. But we had other emails that came in throughout the day. So here's what ends up happening. I have her not do anything with those emails as far as answers, replies, or anything. But she reads every email that comes in, and I teach her about my folder system, what each one means. Here's what her job is. Literally, other than opening the files and processing new files, she only has one other job, and that is my email management. So what she does, she starts to look at every single email, and she determines everything that I told you about before. Can it be answered in 30 seconds or less? She can put it in a 30-second or less folder. Number 2 is an emergency. We have an emergency folder. She can put it in there. I'll handle those 2 folders. But she's getting to see what types of emails come in. And if she puts it in the 30-second or less, and I look at that, now I get an understanding of the way she thinks when she reads an email. She actually read that email and thought it could be handled in 30 seconds or less, and that's a much bigger problem than what it is. So now I know where we're lacking in training. She thinks that something's an emergency, and here's one that folder fills up a lot faster than it should, because people who are new a lot of times think a lot of things are emergencies. So now that's a training opportunity. The reason why that one, I get why it feels like an emergency, but here's why it's not and how we'd want to handle that, and we'd want that actually filtered into this folder. Then if it's not something we can do in 30 seconds or less, it's not something that we would consider an emergency, high priority, then it's what other category would this be filtered to? New purchase agreement, compliant, whatever it is. Okay, got those 8 to 10 folders over there. And then what happens is when it's time for me to start going through my folders, Anything that's in there that should have been somewhere else, it gives me an opportunity for us to start talking and for us to start seeing why would this actually go here. We get to start educating her. She's focused on the new files, but without her knowing it, she's starting to learn the entire transaction due to the fact that she's seeing every email that's coming in. She starts to learn the entire process and starts seeing what type of things that we get throughout the entire process and what type of things I'm sending out. Now, here's the next step. Let's say she owns the opening of the files. And after a couple of weeks, we've done enough files. Now, if you're a low volume team, that might take a while for her to really get that down. I'm saying her because my VA was a gal, and she's the best. She was great. Okay, yours might be a guy, but I'm going to keep saying her. Okay, so if you've got real low volume, it may take her a while to learn that because there's not enough repetition. I mean, the volume I was doing, she'd learn it very quickly because we could get anywhere from 5 to 15 new purchase agreements in a day. Not a big deal. And if you do that over a couple of days, it's really within a week or two. Goodness gracious, you know how to open up a file and you're awesome at it, okay? Then I'm going to show her how to close it. But here's the next thing that I do, and this is important, okay? She's been filtering this whole time, so she's really got a good concept of what we get communication-wise throughout the entire transaction. So what I start to do is I start seeing that she's filtering very, very well, very correctly. Now, what I do is I'm going to choose 2 of those folders that have the lowest bar for as far as complexity to answer, handle, or anything else like that. And I'm going to take those 2 folders and I'm going to rename them. And what we rename them is just VA, Virtual Assistant, dash, and then leave whatever the title of it was. The goal is that all those filters will eventually get renamed to VA dash whatever it is, okay? That's when I know she can handle anything that happens in our business other than things that would take, like I've got over 20 years experience, something that would take that level. She's going to still keep in my folder and say, this is something I don't know what to do with. I mean, how would you handle that? But generally speaking, we want her to start owning all of those folders. And what I do is I give her the 2 easiest ones. What's one easy one? Come on, this is not hard. Oh, we all know it's not hard. And that is the closing got scheduled. We got a copy of a closing notice, and all we need to do is we need to go to the calendar, add it to the Google Calendar, invite the customer, invite our agent, make sure we cut, copy, and paste all the details about the closing into the whatever description, put the address in there so that they can GPS it from their phone. Myself personally, I like to then take the closing notice, save it as a PDF, and I like to attach it to the Google Calendar. I can teach her how to do all of those things. So that would be one folder is setting up all the closings. Pretty simple. There'd be another folder or 2, and I will make those choices on what she's ready to own. Okay? Remember, not do, not handle, own. Own, 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 own. I'm going to give her something she can own and take pride in. Okay? Now, after we've done this for a number of weeks, maybe even a month or 2, I had Rain work in my email for 2.5 years. We just worked as one person, basically, okay? And that worked really well for us. Now, I could also separate her onto her own, but I don't want her doing all the files 100% on her own until I know that she's got a pretty good handle on the way I do business, okay? So that is one thing I just wanted to mention to you. Think about this from a creative way of doing things is how are you training people? How are you onboarding people? I don't think that everybody thinks about using an email management system like I've taught in this entire course, that if you had this down to a science, crazy predictable like this, I mean, over the top predictable like this, there is no gray area. And I mean, no gray area, 0 gray area. Your email is going to be at such a systematic, organized level that nobody is used to. It's abnormal. Okay? It should be normal, but it's freakishly abnormal. But it's a dream of an environment, a clean environment that you've created that now you can use for other purposes. And I actually use my email because it is so organized and freakishly clean like we've talked about, that I can actually use it as a training field. I'm not worried about her screwing things up. Because at the beginning, all she's doing is filtering it into folders. I'm just checking to see if she put it in the right folder or not. If not, it tells me we have a little more training to do. Okay. Once she gets a little farther, then I'll determine what 2 folders she can start owning those emails and start replying to those. And then I'm checking it, making sure that she's doing well. Until those, she can do them in her sleep. And then I'll give her another 1 or 2 folders. Okay. Until I'm very confident she can handle anything that comes into my email. Okay. So anyways, that's another use of how I use the batched folders. If your email is truly a system, a freakishly predictable system like we've talked about, your email is a very clean and controlled environment. Isn't that kind of ideal to have a new person in? Clean, controlled, predictable environment. I will use and abuse that all the time. So that's how I do some of my training. Okay. So I hope that might be a new perspective that maybe you haven't thought about, but you see how when I talk about email management system, it's pretty big picture for me. It's huge. It's a major part of everything I do. All right. Have a good day, guys. Okay. This next topic, hands down, is going to be my hardest one to determine. How deep do I go? How generic do I go? Because the reason why this is so hard for me is because we are mixing 3 very specific skill sets to come up with one thing that helps us with email management. Okay. So I see email management as its own skill set. Email management as a skill, email management as a system. That's one whole thing. And that's what this course is all about. Okay. Now, if you take everything that we're applying in this course, and I mean literally everything that we said applying to this course, and now apply this to time blocking. When I'm crazy effective, over the top effective is when I marry these 2 skill sets. And that's what's tough about this, because when I start talking about time blocking, it's hard for me not to go real deep on that. That's a 3-hour course. Easy, I can do a 3.5 hour course just on time blocking in just about any career. But right now, I'm going to stay focused and try to stick with just the same example we've been given through the whole thing, and that would be something such as real estate transaction management. Okay, but understand, this is transferable to any industry, and I would encourage everybody not only to try to build up a skill set, a specific skill set on email management, but do whatever it takes, because the reward will be so huge for you and everybody around you, for that matter, to also do a deep dive. And I mean a serious dive, like a 5-year dive into just time management. It will be time well spent. So from there, the 3rd skill is going to be email templates. That's a whole nother skill, because that's almost a writing skill. How do you write templates that don't come across as generic? They still truly have your personality in it, and they truly are, they're written in a way that they don't sound like they're just cookie cutter templates. They actually do address the specific issue, and they do it in a way that is respectful. I can go into that, and I'll just stop with that. But let's just talk about this, okay? So I'm going to do screen share for you here and show. Here would be one version of what maybe for a transaction coordinator, Monday through Thursday is where most of my things are time blocked, okay? You can also see in other videos, I talked about what my outline for an email template was. It starts with gratitude, it ends with gratitude, it goes to educate and request offer. That's right here. And then reminding me inside my calendar event, what are all the details I want inside a calendar event. So that's a whole, like I said, this is a 3.5 hour course just on time management. So I'm not going to go there. Then if it's also on your calendar, okay? So anyways, let's just dig in this for a little bit. I'm going to try to keep this video short, because this is one I really want to do probably a full course on, because it deserves that. And it's that technical. But just to give you an overview, I'm telling you this. If you know for a fact, you can go ahead and time block yourself. What'll end up happening is if you can marry your time blocking with your email management skills, you can take everything to some of the highest levels. Some of the highest levels. Now, that's what's so hard for me in this course, because I'm not going to be able to dig. Why do I say that it will take you to a higher level? How do you actually do that? Understand this is I would work on your email management skills. I would work on your time management skills. Now, when you come to the point that you're going to be dealing with new files, okay, or you're going to be dealing with lender commitments, or you're going to be dealing with other due dates, so on and so forth, just a ton of different things, okay? On each one of those, when I get to that, from 8 to 9 o'clock, I can handle these things because none of these take me more than 5 to 10 minutes, so I can fit anywhere from 5 to 6 of those in. And then I go into processing my PAs. Now with that, every single one of these that I'm working on, I use everything that we talked about in email management to go ahead, and let's just do this because this is maybe a simpler view. So from 8 to 8:30, I can handle these two things, okay? And via my email management skills that I'm working on, I'm going to use every one of those skills to go ahead and perform these tasks. So some of your email management skills are about what you do for emails that are coming into you. But remember previously in the course, some of it has to do with what you're doing going out as well. So how you actually write and template and format your actual emails that you are sending out, you're initiating, how you do the subject lines. Those are all skills that we talked about earlier. So if I'm the initiator on all of these, I have to use all of those skills to make sure I have the best effect. I'm writing it properly. I'm templating it properly. I'm using the email formulas that I put together. I'm using email subject lines that we've talked about, that they're very predictable and formulated. Also, am I copying everybody in? Am I blind copying everybody in? So these are all things I'm initiating. So I have to use all of those email management skills. Now, because I'm time blocked, I can knock out those time blocks very quickly because I have a system and a process and a thought process and a mindset around how I do my emails, okay? Now, let's talk about templates really quick. Now, templates, here is my bar. It is no more complex than this. This is so second grade level, but this is literally the way that I do it and the way that I think. How do I determine what needs a template and what doesn't need a template? If I ever have to say anything more than 3 times, I have to repeat myself more than 3 times, I have to answer the same question more than 3 times, I get asked anything more than 3 times, 3 is my number. It's always going to be my number. If I ever have to do anything or repeat myself or do something similar at least 3 times, that automatically becomes a template. The only thing I'm going to say about writing email templates, because again, that's a whole separate skill set, and you could use some of the other things I've talked about, is this. If I have to write it more than 3 times, it's going to become a template. If it's going to become a template, here's the very first thing that I do. Okay, because I already have an email management system, generally speaking, the first 3 times that I did it, or 6 times, or whatever number of times I've already done it, I could go back and look at the last 3 to 6 times that I've done that. And generally speaking, any one of those would work as my template because I probably used a subject line that was fairly formulated. I probably used the contents of the email is fairly formulated. People make such a big deal out of doing email templates. And what I'm proposing to you is that if you got all these email management skills down that we've talked about, actually you wouldn't have to start from scratch with an email template. The only reason why an email template even exists is because you've done it 3 times or more. If you've done it 3 times or more, if you hadn't done it really well the first 3 times, you probably would have been fired anyways. You have 3 of the best examples because they're from you. And you've already done the right subject line. You've already done the right contents of the email. Take those, cut, copy, and paste it. Look at the 3, determine which one you did the best, cut, copy, and paste it. Start that as your email template. Worst case scenario, that's going to be reasonable. Then every email template is a living, breathing document. It can always change. If someone emails me and it's in a similar vein, but I like the way that they said something different, are you kidding? I'm stealing that all day long. If someone can say something, I'm not all that. There's people that are way more talented, way more skilled, and can speak better than I can write better than I can. And if they do that, I'm going to find that, and I'm going to definitely use some of their verbiage, and I'll update my template. My template will always be a living, breathing document. Always, 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 always. So the next part of what we're talking about in this section is email management as a system. There is an absolute beauty when you marry these 3 skill sets. One is email management, everything that we've talked about. time blocking and time management. I like the phrase time blocking because that's really what I do. And then the third one is writing great templates. I have a bar and a standard, which is 3. If it happens more than 3 times, that's just going to become a template. If it becomes a template, I don't stress myself about writing templates. I literally have companies I've worked with that they want to go and write, they believe that they need about 60 email templates. They will make this an actual project to knock out all their templates. What a colossal waste of time. Give me a break. The only reason why you need the template is because you're doing it more than 3 times. If you've done it more than 3 times, go back to your history, look at those past emails, and if you hadn't said those in a reasonable way, you wouldn't be in this job anyways. You're awesome at what you do. You're amazing. Get over it and realize that what you had done is at least acceptable. It's a great starting place, okay? So don't make it such a big deal. Look at the last 3-4 times you've had to do it. Look at the one that you think you said it the best. Cut, copy, paste that. That's the beginning of your template. And then if you want, read it once or twice. Don't make a big deal. I can't stress that enough. Downplay how hard it is to get all these templates done. Just dummy it down and go, okay, I wish I would have said that a little bit different, but that's the best of the 4. I'll just change this line. I'm good. There's your template. Move on. I can knock 60 of those out in less than an hour, okay? Because a lot of them, I'm not changing anything. Okay, or at least less than 2 to 3 hours. This is not what some teams do, where it's a 2-month, 3-month, 6-month, 12-month project. And you talk to them 12 months later and they go, yeah, we still have to knock out all of our templates. Oh, give me a break. What a colossal waste of time. You would have been fired a long time ago if the last 6 times you wrote that email, it was that bad. It wasn't that bad. You're awesome at what you do. You probably did a pretty good job. Go find one of those, cut, copy, and paste it, edit it a little, be done with it, move on. Understand, a couple of weeks down the road, if you don't like what it says, you can always change it. And how do I generally change it? Here's the number one thing that changes my templates. And this was a huge lesson for me long time ago. Now it's kind of automatic and I don't even think about it. Is how do I know that my template needs to change? This is so simple, and I wish I would have realized this years and years ago. Just takes time to learn sometimes, is you send out that template. If you send out that template enough times, you're going to see some consistencies on replies back to you. If the replies back are consistently, hey, Dave, thanks, that's great, it's probably pretty good. It's probably decent. It does the job. If I send that email out and I fairly consistently, even if it's 3 out of 10 times, 2 out of 10 times, I always get kind of a similar reply with a question or asking me more information, then there's a problem with my email template and I need to go edit it so that what I am consistently getting asked or consistently getting questioned on is actually already addressed in that template. So I'll basically just change it a little bit, okay? So if you already know what the reply could be, you could already write that in a way that it addresses the concern that you already know is going to come back to you. How do I know it's going to come back to me? Because after I send that template enough times and I see that type of reply, that type of concern, those types of questions enough times, I need to be aware enough that that's a consistency. If that's a consistency, I have to ask myself, is there any way I could address that in the initial email so that won't be a concern or a question back to me? And remember, my email templates are very much going to go with everything that we talked about with email management, with a templated subject line, templated formula for the actual email. It's going to have an actual formatting formula to it, all that kind of stuff. So I hope that helps. I don't want to undersell the time blocking thing, but this is a couple hour conversation on time blocking. But if you can marry your email management with your time blocking, with your templates, oh my gosh, what a thing. Anyways, that was a hard topic for me. I'm sorry if I didn't do as great of a job as you would like on that one, but get the concept and try to figure out how to marry those. And that's the best I can do in this amount of time. So you guys have a great day. Good morning, one and all. We've made a couple updates per your request. A couple people have gone through, a couple thousand people literally have already gone through the email management course. It is free. You can always find it at cultivatewins.com. contentment.com, go to the store tab, and you'll see that it's a free course. The course is 2 hours and 40 minutes. But the TC community, transaction coordinators, have been looking for examples of what folders people have come up with. So what we did is you're going to notice in the virtual whiteboard template, and then also in your TC 101, if you come over to the TC email folder examples, there's links up above that you'll see there. And then 4 people went ahead and shared what they're using for folders. So these are 4 separate businesses of what they're actually using. And this particular example exists both in the TC 101 toolkit and in the transaction or the virtual whiteboard template. And what it is the first one is from Joe Scanlon. Second is from Lindsay Bavaro. Next one is from Tanya, and the next one is from Ashley. And they have all gone through the course, and they've all come up with their own folders. Now, in the course, one thing I do talk about, I'm not... I think we come at this from a different perspective, some of us. I don't really get into, I want to know what everybody else's folders are, but I understand that we all think a little bit different. Some people just need that inspiration. The way I like to do it, and I think I mentioned in the course, is I think of it as a 6-week cycle to figure out what my general folders are going to be. So I think you could actually combine these two. So using these examples, plus doing the 6-week routine that I talk about in the course, which is basically this. Go ahead, look at these folders, kind of get what you want your general folders to be. But for me, a typical transaction takes between average 4 to 6 weeks to close. So what I do over a 6-week period is I really pay attention to every email that comes in and think about how would I categorize that email. And I just keep a little notebook by the side, and I go ahead and I come up with the type of category that I think that email will fill. Usually I'm going to come up with maybe 10 to 15, maybe 15 to 18, whatever it is. And then as I'm putting those labels down, or those folder names down, whatever you want to call them, I just put a tick mark, the 1, 2, 3, 4 / for 5. And I start seeing how many I have. Then I start seeing, do I need to add folders? Do I need to take folders away? That type of thing. Now, you are going to notice something that's on here. Most people have, and I'm going to use this as an example on my 6-week. What I have found, most people have like a new contract or new purchase agreement folder here. After I experimented with my folders, labels, whatever you want to call them for a while, that actually became 2 folders for me personally after 6 weeks. And that was because of this. Usually I've got a folder for new contracts, and it's in that folder if I have not processed it yet. So why would I have something in there and not just process it immediately? Because sometimes an agent will send me 1 email, but it may take 3 to 5 emails of them sending me this and this and this and this till I have everything I need to fully process that file, or at least enough in there that I can get it processed. Now, once I processed it, I still may have some work to do on it, but it is processed, it's out, it's now in compliance, it's to the lender, it's to the closers, it's to the title company, it's to the attorney, it's copies are sent to the customers, whatever else I need to do, but I know there's still a little bit of follow-up or things that I'm waiting on, so then I have a second folder. So one is called New PAs or New Contracts, the other one is New PAs or New Contracts - follow up or follow through. So what goes in that folder, anything that's in the new PA, are things that have not been processed yet. Now, if it's been processed, I remove it from there and I move it to the next folder. Now, what do I save in that next folder? Not all those things. Maybe there's an email in there that says I'm still waiting on something. I might move that up into the follow-up folder. But really what it is after I fully process it and send it out, I'll go to my sent folders, grab that email that I just sent to fully process it, and I'll put that in my follow-up folder. Now, why would that remind me what I need to do? Because when I sent the file out and I fully submitted it, I include in every file that I submit what I'm sending, and more importantly,
Why would I tell them what I'm sending? I don't even care about that, quite frankly. I just do it because it's kind of standard practice. What I care about are the notes that I put in the file that I submitted that clearly states what is missing. I always want to know what's missing, when can they expect to receive it, and then I tell them who owns following up on that. Do I own it? Is one of the agents going to get that? So those notes are included in every file submission. Now, because they're included, I now can put that in the email follow-up, and that reminds me exactly, I have fully processed it, and here's still what we're working on. That's just the way I work. So that becomes, that one folder now becomes 2 folders. Same thing with compliance. I used to have a compliance folder, which I notice a number of people here have as well. And then I have a compliance and then save to compliance. So compliance means that I've got some work to do on compliance for this particular file, email, whatever it is. Now, once everything has been completed, everything's been shared, when I'm done with something, I don't immediately go to compliance and go save things, okay? It just needs to get to compliance prior to closing. But I'll usually empty my compliance folder once a day or once every other day. And once I'm done and there's no more work required of me, I will put it in my compliance save to folder. And so that just reminds me that everything is done with that particular compliance issue. And now once I am in my time blocks will tell me how often and when I'm actually handling all my compliance issues. So I just want to encourage you, use these as examples if that helps you. But for me, what I do is I don't assume that I have what's really going to work for me until I've gone through about 6 weeks of using it and changing it, editing it. And this is a living, breathing tool. So I can change the folders. Sometimes I've got 2 folders and I decide, you know what, those really could be summed down to 1. Sometimes I've got 1 folder and say that would be helpful if I broke that into 2 because it's kind of 2 stages of it, like the new contract follow-up, compliance versus compliance save to. So those are just some examples. Doesn't mean it's right for you. The other ones, I have 2 closing folders. One is closings, anything that deals with closings that I have to get done for closing or anything else like that, and then closings to schedule or scheduling closings. So I might go ahead and be working on scheduling some closings. I get a closing notice from my title company or attorney, and all I have to do now that I have it scheduled is actually put it on the calendar. I don't go put it on the calendar the second it comes in. That's something that I'm time blocked to go put those on my calendar. So my time blocks tell me a lot of what I do. So anyways, in the description of this video, you will see the links to both the TC101 tool and spreadsheet, and then also this template for this virtual whiteboard. So I hope that helps all of you guys. The only question I really get on this virtual whiteboard is this summary sheet. They're like, hey, this summary sheet doesn't link up with anything on my whiteboard. It's not supposed to. Basically what it is it's a 2-step process. You're going to take this whiteboard, you're going to create your own, go up to File, make a copy, and then rename it and save it to your own drive. Once you've done that, you can edit all of these columns, edit the drop downs, all that kind of stuff. And once you have the columns in the places that you want them, that's when you'd go to the summary, and then you go to whatever category, change it to whatever you want here, and then you'll notice when you go to this category will be a formula up here. Then you edit that formula to pull from wherever it is on your whiteboard. So that's how you use that transaction summary sheet. And I think that's about the only question I really get. Tons of resources on the resource page, by the way. Lots of great links there. And then down at the bottom is going to be a couple of folders take you right to my Google Drive, and you can see some examples of actual task lists from actual working organizations and companies out there, what they're using for a task list. I never want to state that mine's the best, because mine was based on the level of service that I was providing and the way I like to do business. That doesn't mean that it's right for you. So you can go to these folders and look at a lot of different examples from other companies other than myself. Hope that helps you guys, inspires you guys. If there's anything I can do for you, feel free to reach out to me. And then don't forget, throughout here are a lot of links, but even on this email folders template tool, you'll see that there's a Cultivate Wins YouTube channel, there's a free email management course, there's the TC 201, TC 101 courses, the membership links, all that stuff. Hope this helps, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
If you just finished this course, you are hardcore. I don't even want to listen to myself this long. You guys are awesome. I really hope you got something out of this, but I really want to make sure that you also understand and you see the big picture on this. In no way, shape, or form is anything that I'm talking about here theory to me or just kind of best practices talk. This is my real life. This is literally the way that I process and think when it comes to email and email management, for that sake. Is everything is, when it started, I had to put my thought process into it and be very purposeful and intentional about how I did it. But literally, I think everything I covered in this course at this point, it took me a bit to come up with all of these points because of this. I don't even think about this stuff anymore. It's automatic for me to do every single thing that I talk to you about. This is my default. So that's what I wanted to share here, is that over the years, I've come up with a way to manage my emails. And email management can be a system, needs to be a system. And it's great that it's actually not something that just some people are good at, some people aren't good at, some people, they're just distracted too easy. It's a skill you can learn. And here's the beautiful thing. It's a transferable skill. You don't have to be in the same role today as you are tomorrow, as you are 3 years from now. You don't even have to be in the same industry. But if you can truly get down email management as a skill and a system based on your particular role at that time and your particular industry, I'm telling you, it can change your life. Boy, that sounds big. No, I'm telling you, it can change your life. Okay, so I really hope you enjoyed this course. I ask everybody the same 2 questions, so feel free to reach out to me with answers to either one of these 2 questions, and that's all I got for now. Number 1, is there anything I missed in this course that you wish I would have included? Let's try not to make that industry specific in general, because I get that this course could hit multiple industries. But is there a major concept that you feel I just overlooked? It might be something that I do automatically and hadn't even thought about including. Is there a topic I missed that you wish I would have included? Second question, is there a topic I included but you wish I would have gone a little deeper on? Now, sometimes the answer is yes, and that's because they wanted me to go deeper into their industry. This course is to serve everybody. But if there is something that you think everybody would benefit by me adding something or going deeper on something, please feel free to reach out to me. And usually my answer is 3. If I get at least 3 people that tell me something similar, I'm probably just going to record it and just add it. And please share this course with someone that you actually care about. Share this with everybody on your team. Share this with everybody in your company. Share this with everybody in your industry. Share this with your mother, your father, your brother, your aunt, your uncle, everything. Because the fact is wherever they work, if they were to be able to build this skill up, I guarantee you could help change their life. I know that sounds big, and I will never stop saying it. Email management as a system and as a skill can literally change your life. And a lot of times it's the missing link in real work-life balance. Now get out there and never stop looking at everything from the point of view is how can I create for myself or those I work with more peace, contentment, joy, gratitude, and compassion. Have an awesome day, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.